Yes, you are. Right? I need you to keep these. Okay, 25th. Oh, here's camera one, Mike. Oh, sorry. Stand by. Oh.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Ann Trujillo along with Shannon Ogden, and we are breaking into programming today because we just want to bring you up to date on our breaking news coverage of this major snowstorm that is hitting us right now.
Perhaps you've looked out your window today. We have a big team of wonderful reporters all over the Front Range. First, though, let's start inside. Chief Meteorologist Mike Nelson in the First Alert Weather Center with his hands very busy today, Mike.
Quite a day, I'll tell you, folks. It really came on pretty much right on time. I said the snow would begin about 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. along the Front Range. It started at 8:06 a.m. at my house, so I'll take that as a pretty okay one. This is what it looked like. Marcia Hobart sent this at Estes Park from late this morning. Here's our live shot up at the Pearl Street Mall in Boulder, where it continues to snow at a pretty good clip. It's been a little bit heavier times, then lightened up just a little bit. Roads are getting very, very icy. I want to go just a little bit weather geeky on you here. So we've been talking about the bomb cyclone. So I drew it up with a hand analysis. It's the low pressure system out over southeastern Colorado. Here's Denver right here. You put the isobars or the contours on this map, and this is a very intense low, almost like an inland hurricane. And so the winds swirl around that, almost as swirling down a drain. And that's why we have the very strong wind flow that continues at this hour. How strong? These are the current gusts, 64 miles per hour at DIA. We've seen them up to 70 miles per hour, 45 at Keensburg, 40 at Fort Morgan. Of course, this is all blowing snow all over the place. Visibilities in many locations down right around zero at the present time. And with that, you might have seen the lights flicker a little bit. We're getting something called galloping conductors. And what that is, the wind's blowing that wet, heavy snow onto the transmission lines. The snow forms a little bit of a wing on that wire and causes the wires to start to float around or gallop. And as those wires move, they don't break, but they arc. And that's what causes the power outages that we're seeing in many locations, and we'll continue to see that for a while. And with that, it's cold, folks. 26 right now in Denver. Feels like temperature at the wind is about 5 degrees on exposed skin. Out ahead of the storm system, it's 51 at Dodge City, but that storm has wrapped all the cold air around it. And there's just plenty of advisories, watches, warnings. Pretty much every county in the state is colored some color this afternoon. The blizzard warning from Denver to the northeast, the high wind warning where there's less snow falling down to the south. Winter storm and avalanche warnings coat the high country. And this is what it looks like zooming in a little bit closer. This is the worst area of the state right now in the northeast quarter of Colorado. Roads closed, power outages. It's likely until about early tomorrow morning, but most likely through the afternoon and overnight tonight. And for the Denver area, the blizzard warning goes right onto the about Sheridan Boulevard and off to the east. So Jefferson County up into Gilpin and Clear Creek and down into Park. Those are just winter storm warnings, just. And the only reason there is that the mountains kind of break up that really strong wind flow and make it a little more scattered up that way. Blizzard warnings continue up Fort Collins and Greeley and all the way out across Fort Morgan. Most severe conditions now until about midnight. So for the most part, and Jason Luber will get to this in just a bit, you might as well just stay home because there's not much else to do because the roads are pretty well slammed shut, and certainly so is the airport. There's the core of that inland cyclone, the bomb cyclone, if you will. And the reason we call it a bomb cyclone is how quickly or explosively it's developed in the past 24 hours. Just a really deep low pressure system between Burlington and Lamar, with the circulation around it swirling in all of that moisture into Colorado's northeast plains. The darker areas are the heaviest snow, and if you looked close, you saw a few of the lightning strike indications. Yes, we're getting thunder snow out of this particular weather maker for today, and that's a sign of how vigorous the motion is in the atmosphere, kind of pulling off the electrons from the snowflakes up there and causing the thunder and lightning to develop. When you see thunder snow indicated on a map, oftentimes that's snow falling at 2 inches per hour. So it's big time stuff. And across the Front Range, the darker colors, the heaviest snows, it's going to kind of keep pouring in here all afternoon into the evening. So easily pick up another 6, maybe 8 inches of snow in many locations, despite the fact that we already had a quarter to half an inch of water with the rain that fell earlier this morning. So give you a little tour of the cameras. This is our camera at Civic Center Park. Not much traffic showing up on the roads at the present time. Here's Fort Morgan. It was raining up until about 1 o'clock this afternoon. Now that's gone over to heavy snow and strong winds. Man, you can't see much out there on our Viero camera in Akron. It is a full-blown high plains blizzard out there. But Burlington, still in the warmer air ahead of this, so it's raining in Burlington. It'll go over to snow a little bit later on this evening. This is the view up at Loveland Ski Area. A great powder day up there, if you can get up there. So this is the map. You can see that storm system kind of rolling off away from us. By 7 o'clock, still good bands of snow, and the winds indicated here, some very strong winds coming in as well. And temperatures are going to be cold enough to cause some real travel troubles, because I'll let Jason talk about this a little bit more in a moment, but any product that they would have tried to put on the roads last night washed off with the rain, and then you get the snow and very quickly the freezing temperatures. So our forecast, blizzard warning continues. We'll drop to 22 for tonight, and then for tomorrow it's going to be a slow go in the morning, and a lot of the schools reopening will really depend on how much progress the plows make overnight tonight and early tomorrow. Windy and cold, a high of only 32. I do have a silver lining, though, in all of this. By the time we get to Friday, it's back up to 42 degrees, and by the time we get to the weekend, we're looking at highs get back into the low to mid 50s. I'll go back behind the scenes here, check a few more things on the weather, and we have full team coverage coming up. Tell me in my ear where we're going next. Let's go to Jason Luber right over here.
Mike, we unofficially, Lisa Hidalgo and myself, we unofficially call this weekend Meltfest 2019, because it will be a meltdown of epic proportions as we get some of that warmer temperatures here this weekend. Right now, it is not a good drive by any means. Thankfully, a lot of folks are off the roads. We didn't have any schools today. We don't have a lot of businesses that are still open today, and that's going to help us out tremendously, because it is not good to be out there driving. To give you the overall big picture, basically along I-25, the ring around Denver, you can get around the ring around Denver, you can get to Boulder, you can get up to Fort Collins, but getting outside those areas, you can't do it right now. Going between basically the Denver Tech Center, I-25, C470, all the way down to Monument, that includes Castle Rock. I-25 is closed down, and Highway 83, which you might want to use as an alternate, is also closed down because of the adverse conditions, and it's just not safe for folks to be traveling. I-70 obviously closed down. We've been talking about that for the last couple of days. How I thought I-70 was going to close and I-76 was going to close, and they are closed down right now. And I-76 is actually closed back here at Highway 85, so you can use Highway 85 to get into Brighton, and you can use it to get up into Greeley, but otherwise I-76 is closed down past Bar Lake and all the way up into Fort Morgan and all the way up into Nebraska. The same thing here on I-70 out to the east. Part of Pena Boulevard is closed down, and it's not really an official closure from Denver Police, but they said they've had so many crashes in there that they do have partial closures of Pena Boulevard. And then I-70 out here to the west is closed down, basically between Morris and Golden all the way up into Idaho Springs. We've had numerous crashes, so I'm going to go over here and I'll let you see some of the traffic conditions. So let's take a look at some of the cameras here on the screenwriter as we take a look at downtown I-25 and Spear. And so I'll show you some of the conditions not only there, and you can see the snow is piling up, but I want to take you down to the Castle Rock area. This is going to be just south of Castle Rock there at Plum Creek Parkway. And it takes just a second for some of these cameras to pop on this way, but you see no cameras are down, or there's one car going down along I-25, must have come on from Castle Rock, because I'm not really seeing anybody else on the roadway. C470, it is open, but very tough through that construction zone. This is 285 or Hamden, right by Lowell, Knox Court, basically Federal, Sheridan, that area right near the Mullen High School, and you can see the snow. You can actually see the lanes, but you can't see any lanes here on Highway 85 at 104th, where that closure of I-76 is taking the traffic up that way. And then this is I-70 and Pecos, and very, very slick conditions, unfortunately. I also want to show you the map quickly of the CDOT map of all the official closures. So if we go back to the map, I'll show you the official CDOT, if we go to B, if you would. There we go. So this is Denver right here, C470 loop basically. So everything to the east is closed down basically from, let's say, Pueblo east, that's open, but from Colorado Springs east and up north and then out east, that is all the areas that's closed down. So it's not just I-70, Highway 34, and we have Highway 36 closed down, and we have all these other county roads and state roads and U.S. highways that are also all closed down. So it is going to be a pretty tough go of it, obviously, for the northeastern plains, not only tonight, but into tomorrow. I think it's going to be probably sometime mid-morning, maybe even midday tomorrow before we get some of those highways, including I-70 and I-76, open where it's safe to travel again, because the folks that are going out there to Nebraska and Kansas, those folks don't want you to go into their blizzard conditions either. I-25, remind you that that's also closed down going into Wyoming, so is Highway 85 and 287 because of the blizzard conditions, and Highway I-80 is closed down. I-25 up in Wyoming is closed down, and of course parts of the mountains are also closed down here as well. So Lisa, where are we going next?
We'll take it.
You guys
come
We're
back
right
to
over here, Jason. Thank
Maybe
you
next
so
time we
much.
could just cover the roads that are open, and that would be a little quicker. All right,
And this
thanks.
is a perfect reminder of why all the
Yeah.
vicinities, all our communities are just telling people to stay home because the road conditions are rough out there. Shannon and I both just drove from the Littleton area, and there's some pretty heavy snow out that way as well. I know we're talking about the Northeast getting the brunt of this, but I thought, at least, I don't know what you think, but downtown Denver, not as bad as what I saw out to the south.
Well, and also on crutches from the car to the door wasn't much
Well, there's
fun
that.
either. Jason had talked about just south of Castle Rock. We showed you the camera there. We also have Jason Grenauer live down there.
And wearing the ski goggles, that's perfect, Jason.
Perfect.
Yes, and good afternoon to you. It took you long enough to talk in the nice warm studio. We want to show you what this blizzard looks like just south of Castle Rock, where the visibility is just at maybe 100. It goes back and forth to about 200 yards. That is I-25 up there. That is the exit at Plum Creek Parkway. Both directions, as Jason Luber mentioned, are closed all the way from Monument all the way up north past Castle Rock. We're here in this gas station where several semis had to pull over. Even one bus had to pull over. They couldn't make it. We saw some video earlier, it's out there on my Twitter feed, of a multi-car pileup down near the Monument area in the southbound lanes. That is believed to be what closed originally southbound, and then between the wind and visibility, I just got off the phone with CDOT, that's why they closed this stretch all the way from Monument up. We are talking about horizontal snow that's just coming at us, whipping you in the face. The last check of the temperature said, oh, it's a balmy 25, except for with the wind chill, it feels like 6, and when it gusts like you can probably hear right now, I have to tell you, it can't be more than 0 degrees out here with that limited visibility, because this is what a blizzard looks like. We have the snow, you have the wind, and you have the lack of visibility here south of Castle Rock. Still no ETA as to when to open up that road. We've been talking to people here. They say this is the worst that it has been. One more thing I want to show you on the ground here. The reason is snow, but all that rain that fell, it's icy underneath it. So you have ice on the roads, then you have snow, then you have a blizzard. That's what everyone is dealing with, including ourselves. This is why we're telling you to stay at home. For now, though, we're reporting south of Castle Rock. We will send it back to you guys in the studio.
Jim Cantor's got nothing on you, buddy.
Now you go get inside that warm
That's
truck,
right.
Jason. All right, we have Jennifer Kowaleski. She's been out on I-70 eastbound, where the interstate is now closed from Air Park to the Kansas border. And that's another area that's been hit very hard. There's so many accidents have been reported out there
Right.
that people can't even get to the airport as we talk about the eastern part of the state.
Right, and the latest from the airport, I just checked, the Pena is technically open, just so many crashes. And we'll get actually to the airport proper in a second. Now to Jennifer Kowaleski.
We are still out here stranded on I-70 East, just west of Air Park Road. Now, we just got an update from a CDOT worker who's actually walking back. He tells us that there is a jackknife semi just about a quarter of a mile away from here, and that is what has caused all of the backup here on I-70 East. He tells us that as soon as they get that semi cleared out, that hopefully traffic will start moving, but the wind gusts, the conditions that we are seeing out here are just deteriorating. In the last 20 minutes since we were last out here, it has just gotten lower visibility. We really can't see at times. You can see there's got to be at least a couple inches, if not more, of snow on the highway here on I-70. And look at all of the other motorists who are stranded with us. They're behind us. They're in front of us. There are dozens, if not hundreds, of cars stranded here on I-70. And the wind gusts, they are unbelievable. I'm Jennifer Kowaleski for Denver 7.
What a mess. We appreciate that, Jennifer.
Just
Gosh.
rough conditions out there for all our folks. And Tony Kowaleski, he's out on on westbound I-70, and that's where we have seen more jackknife semis, and just traffic is at a standstill.
Yeah, Tony?
Want to paint a picture for you right now. I-70 on the west side of Denver. You can hear and feel the wind and the snow. It's pretty much whiteout conditions. Walk you over here. This is the eastbound side of I-70. It has been shut down since about 12:30, higher up in the mountain. Now I'm going to show you what is the westbound side. We saw about a half mile down the road, two 18-wheelers running into each other. One slid into the other lane. That has forced this shutdown. Take a look right now. They are diverting cars off of I-70 westbound here at the Morrison Road exit 259. We've been told it is shut down from here to 100 miles west of where we are right now. And I've got to believe the backup coming up here has got to be several miles. It is getting colder, the wind is picking up, and the snow continuing to blow. That is the latest I-70 westbound. I'm Tony Kovaleski. We'll have updates for you all afternoon.
Gosh.
And clearly bundling would be a necessity. Tony not wearing his gloves out there, so we're going to have to...
That's two demerits from Ann here. All right, thank you, Tony. We appreciate that.
And right now, Excel is reporting, somewhere around 200,000 people, homes without power across the metro.
Mark Stutz is with Excel Energy and is also on the phone. Hi, Mark. Thanks for taking time for us in the middle of all this. What's the latest numbers of power outages you have?
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. We're at about 1,900 outages around the metropolitan area right now, affecting close to 250,000 customers, 246,000 customers. It has come in pretty fast and heavy on us, and we're like other agencies and entities around the state, DIA, RTD, CDOT. The visibility and the deteriorating roads are causing real problems for us, getting there, slowing things down for us, but we're working on it. Hope the break comes soon so that we can move quickly to a recovery.
And Mark, can you give us some ideas to where the bigger power outages are?
It's a pretty universal storm. There are what we call our main distribution lines. There's several dozen of those that are out right now. Those usually serve 3,000 to 4,000 customers, and those are all around the metropolitan area. It's hit us pretty hard. We do have about 500 employees who are working on the recovery effort. That includes the dispatchers, first responders, the crews themselves, people removing trees. But the going's really slow. With zero visibility, you almost have to get right on top of the downed power lines or the equipment that was damaged, whatever the case, to do the assessment and make the repairs. So once we get a little bit of break in this zero visibility, hopefully later this evening, we should be able to make some recoveries fairly quickly.
So is there anything the folks can do at home? I know it's miserable outside, but sometimes when the snow is particularly heavy, that causes limbs to go down, that causes the lines to go down. Do you want folks to go out and shake their trees and that sort of thing, or would that be help?
No, really, don't go anywhere near the power lines. Just at this point, with the conditions we have out there, the best thing to stay inside and get through this. We'll have folks to do that when we get to restore the service in your place. But stay in. One thing you can imagine that with the 250,000 customers out, our call volumes are crazy. So if someone is able to needs to report an outage to us, we're encouraging to go online at our website, www.excelenergy.com. We also have a mobile app. If they're really concerned about their situation, feel they're in dire straits, certainly call 911 as well. But the phones are very busy over here, and we're encouraging folks to report outages through other means we have now, the web and through mobile apps if they can do that.
And give us some idea then, Mark, how you approach these outages. How do you prioritize who gets the repairs first?
And that's a great question. So you try to repair the larger things first. So if you can get a main distribution line, what we call a feeder line that serves 3,000 or 4,000, we're going to focus on those. Obviously, we keep an eye toward hospitals, emergency service centers, that type of thing. But you try to bring in the larger equipment first that gets 3,000 or 4,000 people in at a time, and then you work your way down to all the way to individual homes, individual service loops. So we're probably looking, the best guess right now is we're probably looking at the recovery lasting for a couple days here.
Couple of days. All right. Well, good luck. Be safe to all the crews, and we certainly sitting in here enjoying the heat and the light. We certainly appreciate the work you all are doing today. So thank you, Mark.
Mark Stutz, thank you so much. And again, you can see that map at any given time so that you can understand where the power outages are. I know that's not helpful to a lot of folks who are sitting at home waiting, but patience, I think, is a virtue on a day like today when conditions are rough.
Yeah, and also like he said, maybe don't use the phone if you have a way to access filing not a complaint, but an outage on the website. Jackie Crabb is live at Denver International. Technically, it's open, the concourse is in terminal, Jackie, but the runways are closed, so I don't know why anybody would just want to go enjoy the concourse, but I guess you could.
It's warm. That's a good start.
Right, they're not kicking anybody. You know what, I have a little bit of feedback, so I'm going to take out my IFB, but pretty busy here. I'm not going to pretend like I'm, not the luckiest colleague today, of my colleagues today with this assignment inside. But if you want to look, you can kind of see, we've got a clear view of what's going on outside. There's still lots of employees out there working. They were trying to keep those runways plowed. For now, the airfield has been shut down, and the most up-to-date number that we have in terms of flights canceled, and guys, I don't know if you can help me fix that feedback. More than 1,300 flights have been canceled. There's only 1,600 total that were going to be operating out of DIA, but plenty of people were calling the airlines before, and it's touch and go. So airlines at some point say it's a delay, then they officially cancel it. People were still showing up for their flights, hoping they were going to get out of here. For now, that it doesn't look to be the case. Remember, a lot of the airport is also under construction, so the restaurants that are open are getting slammed because people have nothing else to do but maybe grab a bite to eat. Nobody in the security lines, but airport is up and running. Airfield closed. We talked to so many people. A couple that was heading to the Philippines, a nice warm vacation on the beach, now going to spend the night over in a hotel. Another issue, a lot of the hotels in this area are booked, and then if anybody's booking something, just a few miles out, it's hard to get there. Ubers are backed up. There's a surge in pricing. People have been saying they're having difficulty getting lifts. And so a suggestion from airport officials, if you've got a family member that's coming to grab you, see if there's a way they can take the A-line. Just past that window is where the boarding area for the airline A-line is. They're running twice an hour at the bottom and the top of the hour. They'll get you downtown. So that way your family member, whoever it is, doesn't have to drive to the airport. It took us about an hour and a half from downtown to get to DIA. It was dicey. I mean, we were going really slow. We saw several accidents, and you're going to hear us say this all day, stay off the roads. But a good suggestion, people that are landing here or we're trying to get out that might be from out of town, take the A-line. Every 30 minutes or so, it's going to run, I think it's now $12 to get to Union Station. Much safer way for people to get you out of here. And check with your airlines. The big three airlines, Frontier, United, and Southwest, have canceled all of their flights. There are still a few that have not been officially canceled. We can probably count on that they will, but don't take my word for it. Call the airline. People are in the middle of just kind of trying to figure out what to do next. So airport is packed because it might be the safest place to be right now if you're in the middle of trying to figure out what your next move is for your vacation or getting home. I'll send it back to you guys.
And can you hear us now, Jack?
Oh, go ahead.
Make sure we can converse. I'm sure you've spoken to plenty of people. Are they understanding the situation here, not too frustrated, and what are they hearing from the airlines?
Right. For now, the airline is telling them to kind of stay put if they can. Several of the big major airlines are trying to reschedule them, but as far as we can see, until tomorrow, it's going to be tough getting rescheduled and getting back on, a flight home or wherever they were going on vacation. So for now, it's kind of just stay comfortable in the airport until they can kind of check in and see what to do next for each individual airline.
All right, Jackie, thank you. So just to clear up that any confusion, it is very busy at the airport because the terminal is open, the concourses are open, but all 6 runways are shut down, nothing coming in, nothing going out. Also, she mentioned to take the A-line if you want. At last check, all light rail running to a 30 to 60 minute delay. It's running, it's just going to be slower than what you're expecting.
And that's true all over the metro area. But again, Southwest, Frontier, and United have canceled hundreds of flights, and we can't speak to all the others. But clearly, no one's moving right now. So do be careful and do be smart. If you think you need to go pick someone up from the airport, that probably is your best option. That A-line out there.
Absolutely.
We've talked a lot about the Northeast getting the brunt of this storm, and we have Daryl Orr, who's out near the Wyoming-Colorado border, and let's chat with him now and see what he's seeing up that way. Daryl?
Hey guys, good afternoon. It has been brutal since about 8 o'clock this morning. We are in the city of Cheyenne. We're getting winds of anywhere from 45 to 50 miles an hour. We've even seen gusts up to 65 miles an hour. We have our anemometer in hand right now, and we are clocking at about 42 sustained miles an hour. As for the snow out here, it has really been coming down quite about an inch to 2 inches per hour up here. And with the combined winds, we're getting some drifts that you can see right here, looking at about a foot, in some places a foot and a half. It's been really challenging standing out here. The I-25 is closed from Wellington to the state line and from Cheyenne back to Colorado. Interstate 80 up in this area is also closed east and west, so we're pretty much locked into the city up here this afternoon. So if you're headed out, don't try and do this. It's very cold. Take a look at this. This is my goatee. This is frozen ice built in, and that took about 10 minutes to do. So you really need to bundle up if you have to go outside. Live in Cheyenne, Daryl Orr, Denver 7.
Here's the thing. Daryl Orr is not a small man. And you see that wind knocking him back and forth. Thank you for that, Daryl. That gives you some. If that was sustained 42, what was that last wind gust? It had to be 60, 70 miles per hour.
That's stay inside wind gusts right there. That's
okay.
Exactly what that is. We have Jace Larson. He's in Denver's Five Points area to give us some idea of what the conditions are out in the Five Points area. Jace?
Yeah, hey guys, the conditions have actually, I would say, improved here in the last 20 minutes or so because the wind is just not blowing nearly as hard as it was before. Of course, I say that and then look as the wind starts right now. But we're just next to downtown where we have several inches of snow on the ground. We shoveled this sidewalk, I would say 25 minutes ago or so, and now you can see kind of what has already fallen there. The lack of wind, though, makes being out here a whole lot better than it was before. What we are starting to notice is a lot of the trees are sagging significantly. Let me show you one that's right over here. This is the sidewalk here. You can't really tell, right? But this tree should not be leaning over like it is. The fact that it's leaning, we think, is because there was so much snow on it before, and perhaps somebody has kind of knocked some of that snow off because you couldn't even walk through the sidewalk here. And of course, this is not how it usually is. I can tell you, I've had quite a day today. I started out here in Denver. I went to the airport because I had a 11:20 flight. We got all the way to the boarding line. We were lined up. And that's when our flight canceled. And the most interesting part, I think, was trying to get back from the airport because you couldn't even walk out of the terminal to the area where you get the A-line, the Colorado A-line, because the winds were just too extreme. So we'd wait for it to kind of die down a little bit, and then we'd have to kind of run as quickly as we could without sliding over to the hotel where you could take the elevator down. Those escalators, if you know which ones I'm talking about there, to get to the A-line, just were simply not able to operate. Because there was so much wind. Once we got on the A-line, though, I got to hand it to RTD. We could tell the trains were running more slowly than usual, but they told us that they would be running every 30 minutes. And in our case, and I would say we came back about noon at that point, that's exactly what's happening. When we talk about blizzard conditions out here, the lack of the heavy wind right now obviously changes things a bit. You just saw an RTD bus going right by here, so they are operating as we've been telling you. But if you look down, I mean, we would usually be able to see downtown in that area, and now that's just absolutely not going to happen. When we're looking at how much snow is coming down here, and we're talking about, again, those trees that are beginning to sag, I did get off at the Central Park station and then drove back down here, and we drove by trees, and some looked to be very large. They were knocked over, and they were blocking, actually, the roadways here. I don't want to go out into the road, so I'm not going to do that. This is the parking lane here. But if we come out here for just a little bit, I can see that there's no cars coming. I want to show you the amount of snow that's actually out here on the road. And I do hear an emergency siren coming. And so let's take a step back here. We don't want to be anywhere close to that. Go ahead and take a step back there. We want to make sure we're out of the way, give them plenty of room. They are more important, obviously, than what we are here. But I would say there's a good 4 inches or so at least on the roadways here in downtown. It's slushy. I did notice that in this area, the city had emptied trash bins because this is trash day. We didn't expect that to happen. We thought they weren't going to be, but instead they did. So we're looking at this snow coming down here. I feel like when you compare to what we saw Jason having to deal with there, or even Daryl, it's certainly not nearly as bad here in right next to downtown Denver here. I will say too that when we were talking to people out at DIA, everybody I felt was very friendly, was very understanding. One thing that sticks in my mind though is there was a customer service line that I was recording as I was kind of with my video going by it, and it was 40 seconds long when I looked back at the clip. That means I walked that line from the end to the beginning, and it took 40 seconds, guys. That's something you don't see very often, thankfully.
Though you're going to spend a lot more time shoveling out there, Jace, because I see you have some work to do behind you.
He does have some work to do. Also, I'm sorry, you tried to escape, but we got you.
I don't even think we should start.
That's right, the snow hasn't stopped falling yet.
Yes,
no, an unsuccessful attempt to escape Denver.
Luckily, I love Denver, and so it's not that bad.
Jace, thanks for that. We certainly appreciate it. Boy, it's really nasty out on the plains, as we've been talking about. Well, as you can see just from the radar right now. And we have someone, Don Ogborn, with Kiowa Fire Department. You have to bring out the big guns there, Don.
Yeah, we had to so far, yes.
So tell us about the conditions out there.
Right now we're experiencing complete whiteout conditions. Not so much in the way of snow piling up, just zero visibility, high winds, and our biggest factor right now is people out on the roadway and getting stuck on the road. We've got several vehicles jackknifed on the highways, cutting off our access to many of our patients and or being able to get back to any of our local hospitals. Last number we heard was over 100 vehicles stranded on Highway 86 between Kiowa and Elizabeth.
And you had to call out the National Guard, I understand.
Yes, they did just make that call out as well.
So is this primarily rescues, or are you trying to get cars off the road? What are you out there doing?
We're just trying to get people out of their vehicles. Their vehicles will have to stay, but get them out of vehicles into one of the 3 shelters that are set up for Elbert County.
Can you tell us about those shelters? First of all, where they are, and are people already making use of them?
So there's one in Elizabeth, one at the fairgrounds here in Kiowa, and then one out in Agate. And I can't speak for Agate, but I can speak for Elizabeth and Kiowa. Those shelters are currently staffed and being used by stranded motorists.
And can you tell us more or less how much snow you have out in Kiowa right now? And I assume wind is probably part of the problem for you.
Wind is the biggest problem that we have right now. I would guess we've probably got 6 inches out here. Really hard to tell just because the wind is blowing it around so much. But wind is the biggest factor creating zero visibility for us.
So, Don, about how many National Guard troops have been called to help out down there? And have you ever had to do anything like that before because of a winter storm?
As far as how many troops, I have no idea. I know that call was just made a little bit ago, and I would have to check with our Office of Emergency Management to see when the last time we used National Guard for this type of a weather event.
But given your experience in the Kiowa area, how does this compare?
It's pretty drastic. I don't know. It's been a long time since we've seen a storm of this magnitude out here.
So is Kiowa Fire, is this paid positions? Is this a volunteer force? And how many of your people are out there right now working?
So we're a combination department. We have 3 paid staff and about 15 to 20 volunteers. And currently there's about 5 or 6 of us here. We're waiting for more staff to get in.
And what is your message then to the folks out in Kiowa?
Please, 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 just get off the roads, stay home, give us room to work.
Very good. Don Ogborn, we appreciate it, and we wish you all the best out there. So 3 shelters open now, Agate, Elizabeth, and Kiowa. Sounds like they're really set up, not so much for the locals, it didn't sound like, but for motorists who found themselves stranded. National Guard called out. Holy cow.
And that is just one indication, one community where we are seeing struggling right now with these really lousy conditions out there,
Really
like
lousy.
so many people have never seen before. So let's bring in our chief meteorologist, Mike Nelson. And Mike, these are really dire conditions out there. For some
These are
folks.
deadly conditions if you get caught out there, for sure. And we are really just now getting to the height of the storm for the next few hours. This is what it looked like a little bit earlier this afternoon up in Estes Park. This is some brand new video coming in from David Traum up in Windsor. And look at the winds blowing around at his house up there, really cranking up for sure. And then we have this great shot. This comes from Steamboat, where you'd think that they love the snow. But this is from Larry Pierce, one of the official photographers up at the resort. And that stop sign kind of says it all. Although I noted from Shannon Lukens up at Steamboat Radio, the schools were not closed in Steamboat. They only close them when the temperatures are 40 below zero. So here is the surface map. This is the stuff that I look at back behind the scenes in the Weather Center. That is that bomb cyclone, if you will. And it's over the eastern plains of Colorado. Strong winds sweeping around it. If you draw in the isobars, the lines of equal pressure, this is like a contour map, and so it's going downhill, funneling down into that low pressure system, the strong winds swirling around it, and the result of that is what we're seeing with the very powerful winds across the state. Now, talked about the bomb cyclone. That's a very rapid drop in barometric pressure. So what that means is 24 millibars in 24 hours. We typically see this kind of a bomb cyclone out over closer to the Gulf Stream. We get the warm water from the Gulf interacting with cold air coming in off of North America and creating these big nor'easters that you see on the East Coast. Let's convert that over to what we're more familiar with in inches of mercury on our ship's wheel barometer in this case. 6 o'clock last night, the pressure was 29.53 on the barometer, and then it dropped down into the 28s with this particular storm, and that is a very intense storm system causing explosive development of the low pressure system, hence the term bomb cyclone, the explosive or rapid development we see on the storm. Look at the winds. These are the current winds right now, 64 miles per hour at DIA. Jason Luber is just telling me about an airplane report, a pilot report of an aircraft up at 37,000 feet that ran into such turbulence off the mountains that the airplane nearly stalled. Everything's okay. They were covered up, but what a frightening thing with this powerful storm around here. 61 miles per hour at Fort Morgan, 71 miles per hour, the gust currently out at Lyman. So one of the things we're seeing with the power outages, something called galloping conductors, and that is when the conductors, the transmission lines, begin to bounce because of the effect of the storm. The strong winds, they load heavy wet snow onto the wires and form kind of a wing, which causes that wire to start to do this. And when the wires do that, they don't break, they don't need to, they arc as the power jumps from one line to the other and shorts out the power lines. So that's why we'll see these power outages kind of come and go throughout much of the day. Here are some of the snowfall reports. Couch this with the fact that it's hard to tell in some locations because so much of it's blowing sideways, but a foot and a half just up around Eldora Ski Resort, up around Nederland. Genesee about 13, Aspen Park 12, Estes Park's had about 10, 8 at Evergreen. We've had about 4 here at our studios. This is what it looks like right now on our Viero camera at Civic Center Park. Not much traffic in downtown Denver, although the roads are still relatively clear, it looks like. This is out in Fort Morgan now, where it's snowing so hard can barely see. This was rain about 1 o'clock this afternoon. Here's how it looks up at Loveland Ski Area. These folks are very happy to be up there for today. Here's our warnings. Whole state is covered in warnings. Blizzard warnings, Denver all the way into the Panhandle of Nebraska. High wind warnings farther to the south. The avalanche and winter storm warnings covering the mountains. Worst area in the state for the next several hours from Denver off to the northeast plains. Getting worse as time goes on up towards Sterling and Holyoke and out toward Burlington as roads close and power outages this afternoon and tonight. In the Denver area, worst time is now until about midnight, and then as that low pressure system moves farther off to the northeast, it'll gradually improve, but we're completely covered in either winter storm warnings or blizzard warnings. So here is what the radar looks like. The current time, there's that low swirling like an inland hurricane across Colorado and causing the very intense precipitation, including lightning. You see the flashes there. Those are lightning strikes. It's an embedded thunderstorm in this snowstorm. And you see that oftentimes mean snow falling at 1 to 2 inches per hour. The darker colors here, like right on top of DIA, that's the heaviest bands of snow. They'll kind of swirl around the spiral bands, almost like you'd see when we talk about a hurricane. A couple more views. This is Akron on our Viero camera network. Not much to see there except really heavy snow. The snow is now falling hard in Lyman, where it was rain just about 2 hours ago. Currently in Burlington, though, they're out ahead of it still. It is still just light rain, cloudy skies in Burlington. And up at Sterling now, the heavy snow has started to fall there as well. The roads snow-covered and slippery, rapidly deteriorating. Meanwhile, way out near the Kansas border, that's Ray. And boy, it actually looks kind of green out there in the early almost spring weather, but the snow's still to come. So here's the map right now. You see the wind swirling around it. That's where the low is, eastern Colorado. Watch what happens as it rolls farther off to the east of us. We're still in the good snow bands by 7 o'clock tonight, but it will start to ease up by the time we get closer to midnight. Still strong winds, but the snows will be much lighter. Temperatures cold, though, 25 to about 30 degrees, so the roads are not going to improve in that respect with the sub-freezing temperatures. Bring it on home. Blizzard warning in effect till about midnight for the Denver area, but all night long out in the eastern plains. 22, snow, wind. And look at those winds, 20 to 40, and even higher gusts for the next couple of hours. Then tomorrow, very slow drive in the morning. 32 degrees. I'll have Jason in a moment speak to that a little bit more about how the recovery will be. But the recovery does get much better on the extended forecast as we start to see readings climbing back up into the 50s by the time we get into the weekend. That'll look pretty good. That'll help to melt off a lot of snow, and we'll get back to talking about car wash weather. But for right now, it's a different type of concern for your car. And for more on that, let's go to Jason Luber.
It most definitely is. And unfortunately, Mike, it's a dangerous situation down in Douglas County and Elbert County, as we just heard just a moment ago. And I wanted to show you, start with this. This is down in the Greenland area. This is basically just on the south side of Larkspur, between there and Monument Hill. And I've been watching this camera from some time, and you can see some of the semis and some of the cars that are stuck in here. And they are stuck. And there are a lot of folks that are in need of help. And the State Patrol and the fire departments down there are trying to help. There are 2 shelters already set up in Douglas County. One is going to be at the Larkspur area, one in downtown Larkspur. The other one's going to be at the Douglas County Event Center, the Stock Center, I guess, if you will want to call it that, where they have that event center down there on the south side of Castle Rock, are going to be the 2 places where they will be able to house you, because this section of I-25 is closed. And so once they deal with getting all the people out of here, then they can deal with getting the road open again, which probably won't happen until tomorrow. I'd be surprised if there was any movement here on I-25 all night long, and into maybe early tomorrow we could start to see I-25 move. I think it's going to be the eastern plains that will start moving later on. Take a look at the overall map down that way, and we were also talking about Highway 86. Now, this is the area, this is Franktown right down here, so this is 83 that goes down. That one's also closed down south of Franktown, trying to go to Monument. So if you thought you could use maybe that as an alternate, you can't use it because it is closed. Highway 105, which is on the west side of I-25, there are some areas that are open right now, but only basically for locals. But we do have this area right here, as he was talking about, between Elizabeth and Kiowa, where a lot of folks are stuck on Highway 86 east of Franktown. And this is the area that is going to be very dangerous to try to travel in down there on that south side. And again, this is the area that's closed down: Monument, Larkspur, Castle Rock, all the way up basically to the Denver Tech Center, and it will be, I think, for the rest of the night. I-70 is obviously closed down basically from Air Park. They call it Air Park. It would take you over to the Front Range Airport area, but you can consider it basically E470 all the way out to Kansas, back and forth. That's going to be closed down, I think, until sometime midday tomorrow. Pena Boulevard hasn't been officially closed down, but it is still restricted in places just because we've had so many crashes and abandoned installed cars out that way. In fact, Thornton police sent out a note. They have had so many stalled and abandoned cars that they are actually towing them to 3 different locations in Thornton, to different parking lots. And so they say check with the police, because your car, if you don't see it, it wasn't stolen. It might have just been towed away, and that because they're towing them and trying to make it safe for emergency responders. That's their first real priority. I-76 remains closed down here at the Highway 85 split. So Highway 85 is open going to and from Brighton and Fort Lupton and Greeley if you need to use it to go that way, but I-76 is not. That's the one that is closed down, and obviously I-25 up to the north is closed down. From CDOT, I was just getting this information where they say the major closures remain I-70, as we said, I-25, and many areas in the southwest part of the state. They say there's multiple spinouts on all major roadways across the state, and the conditions have made for dangerous conditions on the roadways, and crashes are a key cause of many of these closures right now. And they say you can expect extended closures of these conditions, just getting a new crash in at 6th and Sims. CDOT plows, they say, CDOT has been out in full deployment since early this morning, focusing on making multiple passes on interstates and working with the State Patrol and local agencies for emergency response with stranded vehicles, because they want to try to get the people who are stranded safely out of their cars first, and then deal with getting the cars out of the way, and then they would open up the roadways. So they're saying safety patrols are going to provide assistance first for the stranded motorists. And traffic, they say, will not be allowed to stay on highways in closure areas. CDOT and others will be coming to help move those people off the highways and get to the sheltered locations. But they say multiple highways are still closed across the state, with the hardest hit areas, Eastern Plains, I-25, mountain passes. And they say it's strongly encouraged to stay off the roadways and shelter in place. That is all from CDOT. I got that from them just a little while ago. I also I want to show you a couple other conditions quickly, as I'll move the cameras here on the screenwriter, if you would, Matt. So let's move to I-70. I want to show you I-70 right now. This is at El Rancho. I-70, this section has been closed down. If you go to S, Matt. Yeah, there we go. So I-70 has been closed down. That's the eastbound side, and you see traffic is barely moving. They're trying to clear some of the earlier crashes that we've had. The westbound side, as you can see, remains closed down because I-70 is closed from around the Morrison exit all the way on up into Idaho Springs, and they say that they're going to have it closed down for some time. I also wanted to give you a quick update on the light rail, 30 to 60-minute delays there. The buses are also running on an extreme delayed cycle. The A line to and from the airport are operating only 30 minutes, but the Pena buses, because of the problems on Pena Boulevard, any of the buses that would be going out to the airport are stopping at 40th Airport and then using the train to get over to and from the airport. But we have, look at that, somebody's out walking there on the highway. Obviously, that's not safe, Ann and Shannon. So it's one of those days where we told you early, don't go out. I'm so glad that the roads are at least now somewhat open for us around Denver, and I'm also glad that the school's closed down, because I didn't want to go pick up my kid here, which I usually pick them both up at about 3:30, and I was telling the teachers yesterday, I'm going to pick them up early because this is going to be that bad.
This was one of those days, definitely, and to that point, Jason, I will tell you that we have been monitoring the feeds to see if any of the schools have let us know what they're doing about tomorrow, and we've not heard anything yet, but we promise as soon as we hear from school districts, we will let you know. But right now, nothing so far. We'll
stay on top of the schools, of course, the weather, of course, the roads, as we've been doing. We have a large team that's out there covering this for you to get you through this safely. Among them, a very brave photojournalist, Josh Whitson, out at about 470 around Parker, Josh, and you were involved in a crash. What happened?
Yeah, like you said, Shannon, I was on my way into work, left an hour, 15 minutes ahead of time, and right before Parker, heading westbound, there was a truck with a trailer pulling antique snowmobiles. Stalled. It looks like it may have been hit by another vehicle, and I swerved to get out of the way of that, and I ended up against the guardrail. While I was sitting there, a semi came and plowed into the back of that trailer carrying the antique snowmobiles. Thankfully, nobody was hurt. The driver of that truck with the trailer was walking about just 2 minutes before it got plowed into, and thankfully, he got back into his truck and he is okay. CSP, like Jason was saying, is having people get out of their cars and taking them to shelters. They were going to do that with me as well, but my chief photographer, Brad Bogut, came and picked me up, and now we are on 25 heading back towards the station so I can actually get to work.
Well, great. I was just going to ask you that it does look like you're there on I-25. Have you seen any plows out, Josh?
There are plows both out on 470 and on 25. The bad thing about it is on 470, it's just drift. You can't see anything. It's whiteout conditions. You can barely see probably no more than 25 feet in front of you. And that's kind of the concern that I had sitting there watching cars do 40 miles an hour by, and stalled vehicles and CSP emergency responders, all there trying to help these people get out, and there's just people just blowing by, and it's not safe to be out on the roads at all.
Absolutely not. So were you still there when law enforcement arrived, Josh? And if so, what are they sort of telling the people who are involved in these many, many crashes right now?
I saw CSP. They had a couple cars there. There was one that came, made sure everybody was okay, and told people to get off of the roads into kind of the left-hand lane so that, cars would go by and not get hit. And so one of the CSP officers came up to another vehicle and said, get into the back of the car. We're going to take you to shelter or wherever. And they were trying to get enough responders there to get these people out of their vehicles and off the roads, and then just deal with the mess later.
So understand, I don't know if you heard our report earlier, down in Kiowa, they have called out the National Guard to help people. So many people are stranded, like people you saw, and boy, it sounds like you're seeing it on a different level with just troopers coming up and picking people up and driving them to shelters.
Yeah, definitely saw that, and it's a good thing because there was multiple accidents just where I was sitting of people trying to avoid first responders trying to help these people out. So if you are on the roads, I would definitely say slow down, take it easy, and just stay inside if you can.
Well, it certainly looks like people are heeding that warning. Here in Denver, as we're watching your camera here, it doesn't look like the wind is blowing as strongly as it once was. What are you seeing? Give us a better description here of your conditions.
The roads and the wind, this is definitely the best that we've seen. Brad came and picked me up probably about 1:30, 1:45. And since then, this is the best that I've seen since I was on the roads at 12:45, 1 o'clock. Denver, normally 25 is kind of slow to get the roads plowed and stuff, but this is the best that we've seen since probably Bellevue.
Very good.
Well, certainly glad you are safe, and that not many people are on the road and are heeding the warnings. So thank you so much, Josh.
And here's what makes Josh's efforts even more heroic than you would think. He's from Florida. This is new stuff to Josh. So nice work out there, Josh, and be safe.
There have been so many crashes today, and we know that tow trucks are out there, first responders are out there. Skylar McKinney from AAA is joining us on the phone right now. Skylar, how many calls for service have you had today?
We're forecast right now for about 1,000. I wouldn't be surprised if it's double that. The bottom line we're seeing is that it is not safe to drive. You have absolutely no reason to be driving. That's why there's a blizzard warning. And I'm from Colorado, and I'm glad I'm not from Florida. When I was a kid, they canceled school the day of. I'm really glad they canceled it the night before because it's just not safe out there for anybody.
So a couple of things, Skylar. So and again, you're telling people not to get out, but I mean, sometimes it is unavoidable. What's sort of the standard list you tell people? Do not leave the house without these things in your car.
Yeah, bottom line, you want to make sure you've got an extra jacket. You want to have a blanket. Remember, the odds are really good right now that you might get stuck and you'll be waiting for us or somebody else to come help you out. You're going to want to shelter in place in your vehicle because it's much more dangerous to leave your vehicle and go out into the snow. So make sure you've got blankets. Make sure you've got extra clothing, food, water. Typically, we would say you want to have kitty litter or a shovel or things that can help you get out of a disablement. But with these conditions and with this visibility, I'm not even sure that it's responsible for you to dig yourself out. Your best bet is to wait for help to arrive. So I would say if you're going out, make sure you've got a red bandana with you so you can tie that to your mirror and let them know that the car has been abandoned at the side of the road, which you shouldn't do, but with these conditions, I understand it.
So are your folks able to get out and about okay today, the AAA folks?
Yeah, just like CDOT, we're deployed fully. We're lucky we run heavy trucks with drivers who drive professionally. They will be getting to you if you call, but remember, if you've called AAA, it's going to take a little extra time, not only because of the weather, but because there's road closures. But we're operating in full force. If you call us, we will come get you, but as a condition of us rescuing your vehicle, you have to be with the vehicle. So if it's unsafe for you to stay with your vehicle, know that you can call AAA at a later time.
And Skylar also, it's a little, and Ann and I both had to drive in through from the south part of town up to downtown, and it's a different type of problematic driving when you have deep and blowing snow. We haven't had that really this winter so far, but your car behaves in an entirely different way than it has with previous storms.
The first thing I would say is that if you're going out in this, which again I don't think you should, you've got to make sure you clear all of the latent snow off your car because that's going to become a hazard. But you're exactly right. This is a blizzard, and what makes a blizzard different than a winter storm is the wind. That creates a huge amount of visibility problems for you and your passenger vehicle. And for semis, most of which have now been pulled off the road, that's why we're seeing these blowovers, because there's a ton of wind, which this is really worst-case driving condition. I would gladly trade the wind for an extra foot of snow because the wind really limits your visibility.
And so if people do get stuck and they're waiting for you, what should they be doing? Or what should you tell them?
I would run your car, the heater, for 10 minutes on the hour. Every hour you want to conserve gas. I would make sure you're clearing off your exhaust pipe in case you don't want snow buildup there, which can then create carbon monoxide. But otherwise, listen, just wait in place, be patient. Whatever you do, don't get out of your car and walk along the highway. People will not be able to see you. In worst case scenario, if the call is taking longer than you anticipate, call us. We'll update you on how long it'll get to be a truck out there. And if you need to leave your car, make sure you inform law enforcement. Whatever you do, though, if you're leaving your car or if you're disabled, get it out of the roadway and onto the shoulder, because just like all the other emergency responders, we need the roadways open to help everybody out.
Skylar McKinney with AAA, thank you so much for the great advice.
Really
Appreciate
good
it.
advice. Yeah.
Thank you.
Adjusting my earpiece there. Also, just seeing from RTD, buses are on a 60 to 90 minute delay right now. Light rail 30 to 60 minutes right there. Also, I-70 out east closed. I-25 from Monument Hill, Ridgegate to Monument closed.
So many roads are closed right now. In fact, Tony Kovaleski is on westbound I-70. There have been jackknife semis out there in traffic. Tony has not been moving out there, right, by Morrison?
Yeah, that is correct, Ann. We want to give you a 360-degree view of where we are right now, and you can kind of feel the snow and the wind, but visibility about 1/8 of a mile. You're looking right now westbound on I-70. It's been closed for about 2.5 hours since about noon. We saw 2 trucks about a mile east of here that slid into each other. It looked like wind had forced one of the 18-wheelers to run into the other. That started the shutdown. You can see the CDOT vehicles behind us here also blocking the way. Everybody exiting here at the Morrison Road exit, but you can look over onto the eastbound side of the highway. It is also shut down. CDOT telling us both directions for about 100 miles here. They say there have been a couple of avalanches just to the west of us in the mountain, but things have lightened up. About an hour ago, it was backed up for at least a mile, maybe as much as 5 miles here at the Morrison exit. People exiting both north and south going into Denver or going north out of town, but the wind has been gusting. It is not as bad. The snow level and the amount of snow not as bad as we saw about an hour ago here, but again, both directions of I-70 shut down here at Morrison Road, and we're told up at Highway 6 coming eastbound, that's where the shutdown is. You're allowed to get off here at Morrison, get back on I-70, and head back into Denver. But right now, and at least for the next 2 hours, CDOT telling us in a conference call earlier this afternoon that this is going to remain shut down. There are avalanche concerns. There are obviously many accident concerns that have been happening in and along this stretch of the highway. Roads are covered with about 1 inch of snow, and we've seen plows kind of coming through here within about the last 15 minutes, starting to plow as you go eastbound. So a lot of changing conditions. CDOT in the conference call, Ann and Shannon said, they're calling this a statewide blizzard. Highways affected everywhere. And as we've been saying all day, staying at home is truly the best option.
Tony, we appreciate that. And that's on the west side. Let's head on out to the east side of Denver now.
That's where Jennifer Kovaleski is at I-70 eastbound near Air Park. So what are you seeing out there, Jen?
And Shannon, it has not stopped. We are stranded on I-70 eastbound. Just take a look. We are stranded with dozens, if not hundreds of other motorists. We are going on almost 4 hours since we have been stranded out here. We are not far from where CDOT has the highway shut down at Air Park Road. But this whole standstill is actually, a CDOT worker told us, because of yet another jackknife semi about 1/4 of a mile away from here. Conditions have just rapidly deteriorated. We are seeing massive wind gusts. You can see them. We've been getting whipped by them. I mean, we are dealing with blizzard conditions, the whiteout conditions. I mean, we can't even really see that far in front of us, maybe 150 yards in front of us. We have not moved in 4 hours also, so that is how traffic is at a complete standstill out here. And I don't know if you can see, but that is a snowdrift right in front of our live truck. That is probably now 2 feet of snow. The last time that we were out here was about a foot, so that just gives you an idea of just how fast and rapidly the winds are blowing, and the snow is continuing to pile up here on I-70 eastbound. Now, we have no idea when they will reopen the road. When we talked to that CDOT worker about 2 hours ago, he essentially told us that as soon as they get that cleared, the idea would be that traffic would continue to move, or they would be able to get traffic moving again. But given the conditions we're seeing, the snow drifts we have in front of our live truck, it's hard to imagine how anyone is really going to get out of here in a vehicle. So I think that is the question. A lot of these semi-truck drivers, we've kind of seen them try to move, but nobody's moving. The winds have been so high at some points we've actually had our live truck shake, move back and forth as we were dealing with these winds. The visibility is awful. It's cold. We actually even got in our own little accident. My colleague Jacob, we had no visibility when we were driving down here, and you can see our side mirror is no more. It is gone. Fortunately, he was able to react as soon as he did see that semi and swerved left, but we had the side mirror taken off. It shattered the passenger window, so definitely some scary moments out here. We were almost one of those crashes that are causing all of these additional delays. So we are grateful that that didn't happen, but clearly just gives you an idea of just the conditions and really how rapidly the conditions deteriorated. I mean, it went from not being terrible. I mean, we were dealing with rain, light snow as we were coming out of Denver, but then within 10 minutes, it went from pretty good visibility to zero visibility. I mean, that is how quickly things have changed out here and just continued. The snow is still falling. The wind is not slowing down. We are dealing with blizzard conditions, heavy, wet snow, and that is the condition out here. We are still stranded on I-70. I'm Jennifer Kovaleski for Denver 7.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ann Trujillo along with Shannon Ogden. Thank you so much for being with us. We wanted to bring you up to date on all our breaking news coverage of this major snowstorm that is really putting a dent in all of Colorado right now.
It is, and no matter how bad you think it is, if you're inside, luckily looking outside, it's worse than that. We have reporters all over the state, all over the Front Range, even up into Wyoming. Let's start with Chief Meteorologist Mike Nelson, who is tracking this monster storm, which, Mike, looks an awful lot like a hurricane on the radar. And I happen to notice we are just like a week away from the anniversary of the 2003 blizzard.
That is true. And I think a lot of people have this sentiment out there. Please make it stop. And it has a little bit in some locations. This is a live shot from our camera up on the Pearl Street Mall where the snow is pretty much stopped for the time being, but other places certainly not that way. This is what it looked like this afternoon at about 2 o'clock up in Estes Park, where they've had close to a foot of snow so far. This is about an hour ago up in Windsor. David Traum sending in this shot from his backyard. And let's my wife Cindy get in the act. This is what it looked like earlier in the storm, about maybe 10:30, 11 o'clock at our house out in southeast Aurora at about 6,000 feet. And this is the latest shot. The birds are not happy, but we're doing the best we can with the feeders. And look at those birds. They are really working hard. And, of course, our own Lionel Bienvenu sending in some shots. This is what it looks like from his place down in Highlands Ranch. Look at the trees blowing in the wind there. Definitely a major, major storm as far as what we've seen along the Front Range. So here's your surface map, hand-drawn today because of the severity of the storm. I like to analyze it by hand. And that big bomb cyclone we've been talking about, these are the isobars, the lines of equal pressure. The more of them, the tighter they are, the stronger the winds. It's kind of like a contour map, so that's deep down into the low pressure system, and it's swirling around all of that moisture coming into the storm system. That's why we've had the very powerful winds along with the very heavy snow. How much? Well, 18 so far at Netherland. 15, that's an update just a few minutes ago from Genesee. Aspen Park's at about 13. Estes around 11. Evergreen about 8, and we've had about 6 reported at Castle Pines. And just recently, it's a little hard to tell because it's blowing sideways so much. Here are the current wind gusts. 58 at the top of the hour at DI, 62 at Fort Morgan and Akron. Look at Lyman, 77-mile-per-hour wind gusts out there. You can imagine why everything is slammed shut on the eastern plains. The winds are a little bit more lighter and a little more varied up into the mountains. Of course, the mountains act as a pretty good wind block in some locations, and so that's why the wind are not coming in quite as powerful off to the west of us. Taking a little tour around the area. This is our Viero camera that's at Civic Center Park. Not much traffic in downtown Denver. The roads are wet and in some cases snow-covered and slippery. That's the current view from our Viero camera that is out in Fort Morgan. Heavy snow falling there and limited visibility. That's a nice-looking shot up at Loveland Ski Area at the top of Chet's Dream, that high-speed lift that's giving people a very nice day up there. So this is the warning situation. It's widespread, folks. Blizzard warnings all across northeast Colorado. High wind warnings southeast Colorado. Avalanche and winter storm warnings in the high country of Colorado. The worst of the weather on the northeastern plains, where that blizzard warning is really slamming everything shut. Roads closing up, power outages. That's likely to continue through the afternoon and much of the night, especially in far northeastern regions of the northeast plains. For Denver, I think we're in the worst of it right now and until about midnight, and gradually improving from west to east. Remember, I showed you those winds not as strong over here. That's why they're under the winter storm warning there, as opposed to the blizzard warning, which is winds sustained of 35 miles per hour and visibility down below a quarter of a mile. So let me show you the radar, and it's really something. There's that low. We talk about an inland hurricane. You can see the spiral band swirling around this thing, and that low acts like a pump, if you will, just a conveyor belt bringing in moisture up along the Front Range. And the darker blue colors, that's the stuff that's really dumping the heaviest snow. We've even had some lightning strikes from time to time. Not seeing any right at the moment. At the beginning of this loop, you see them, and then they haven't seen anything just in the last couple of minutes. But that's an indication of the power that this storm has, the turbulence in the atmosphere. Jason Luber reported a pirate report, a PIREP as they call it, from an airplane up at 37,000 feet that ran into extreme turbulence coming along the Front Range about 45 minutes ago, Jason? Pretty crazy stuff indeed. That's way up high into the atmosphere, folks. So these are the darker snow bands. The heaviest snow is shifted a little bit in the most recent view off to the east of downtown, but we're still getting moderate snow here. The heavy snow's just east of Pena Boulevard down to about Bennett. And that's the view currently from our camera in Akron. Just basically zero visibility in the heavy snow. About the same story currently in Lyman, where those winds are blowing above 70 miles an hour currently in Lyman. Farther out on the plains, Burlington, just starting to see maybe a changeover from the rain to a rain-snow mix. It'll go over to snow later on this afternoon, be heavy for much of the night tonight. This is Sterling, where they had rain early this afternoon. Now the road's getting snow-covered and slippery. And this is Ray, where the fields are looking a little bit green off into the distance. They've had mainly rain in Ray, but it's going to go over to heavy, wet snow here shortly. So this is the big picture. You can see the swirling winds around the center of that storm, and we're going to watch it as we put this forward. It starts to lift out a little bit. By the time we get to 7 o'clock, still some good heavy bands of snow over northeast Colorado. You see the wind indications here with the streamlines, and then by the time we're getting to 11 or 12, 25 to 30 degrees most locations here. Teens in the mountains. Snow showers, still windy and cold. So blizzard warning continues till midnight for Denver, through early tomorrow morning across the northeast plains, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning out near the Kansas border. Strong northwest winds, poor visibility, probably another 3-4 inches of snow at least coming up for the Denver area before this thing winds down. Maybe as much as another 6. But again, it'll be hard to tell because it's all going sideways. Very slow tomorrow morning. 32 in the afternoon. Windy and cold. Northwest winds 20 to 30. It does get better if you're just a little patient. 32 tomorrow. 42 on Friday. The lows start in the teens, though, for Friday morning. Saturday up to 48. 52 coming up on Sunday. Clouds increase Monday with 50. A little mountain snow Tuesday, but nothing down here. And then we're mid-50s next Wednesday, but we're certainly not there this time around. It is a nasty, nasty afternoon. Traffic is the big story, and for more on that, let's go to Jason Luber.
Thanks, Mike, and I want to have a couple of quick updates. One, I just got this from RTD, that A-line trains near Pena Boulevard, they say they're at a standstill due to a frozen switch near 61st and Pena, and they are on site actively working on that and trying to get it working again, but right now trains are not moving. This is the map over there of from CDOT of all the roads that are closed in northeast Colorado right now. So here's the Denver loop, the Denver circle, if you will. And you can go around Denver. You just can't go on I-70. You can't go on I-25 north of Fort Collins or 287 or Highway 85 up into Wyoming because Wyoming's closed down. They don't want you up there. You can actually get around Cheyenne, but you can't get outside of it. I-76 remains closed down up to Nebraska. And then getting on up into parts of Nebraska and Wyoming from some of those other roads are also closed down. I-70 obviously closed down to the east, as well as roads coming out of Colorado Springs out towards Kansas. Really, if you wanted to get that way, if you absolutely had to, you would have to go down to the Pueblo area, southeast Colorado, where those roads are passable. They are open, but travel is still not advised right now. It's really northeast Colorado that is in really, really bad shape right now. I want to take you along some of the roadways and tell you about some of the conditions that we have around town. So let's take a look at the road, and I'll change some of these cameras for you in just a second, but this is I-25. This is actually Evans right at I-25, and you can see how much slush is not only on the roadway, so you maybe can pick out a lane, but then in between lanes or trying to cross between lanes, you're going to have all that slush to deal with, and then if a plow comes by, then it's lights out when it gets all over your windshield and you can't see exactly where you're going. We still have multiple cars that are stranded down here in Douglas County. We have a couple of areas that are going to be your shelters, whether it's going to be down in Larkspur or at the fairgrounds in Douglas County. And what they're doing is trying to get all the people that are in their cars out to those shelters, and then going to recover the cars and then clear the roadway and let it open. So I don't think I-25 between basically the Denver Tech Center all the way down to Monument is going to open until probably tomorrow morning. And maybe that might be even late morning until they can address all of those problems and all those people. And then you throw in that construction zone area, which makes it even worse. And my brother-in-law, who actually works over at Sky Ridge Hospital, says they're having set up some areas down there at the hospital so the doctors can have some place to stay tonight because they can't get out. And so they're having a problem getting some folks in there. This is I-25 right at Ridgegate, right by the Sky Ridge Hospital. And so the hospital down there in Castle Rock is most likely dealing with the same sort of setup. This is I-70. El Rancho. This is the area Tony Kowaleski was talking about. So I-70 is closed down from that Morrison exit, Golden Morrison right there, all the way up to Idaho Springs. And so this is the eastbound side. These folks are the ones that are waiting to try to go east for crashes that are still being cleared up, and then they can finally get back here towards town. And you see no traffic is going on the westbound side. One lane, that was from a plow that went by a little while ago. And then, of course, the snow is coming down so fast that it just covered up right after. And all you can see is just some of the tracks there along I-70. So those are some of the problems we're dealing with on I-70. This is C-470 by Morrison Road, very light traffic, which is welcome news. It is so nice to see. Imagine trying to pick up your kid right now. I usually pick up my kids at 3:30 down in Douglas County, down in Castle Pines, and so I would not want to pick up my kids at this time. If the schools were open and it actually decided to stay open. I'll move the camera here to Broadway and C-470 and see what that looks like. Basically whiteout conditions just like everywhere else through that construction zone. This is 6th Avenue. We've had multiple crashes along 6th Avenue here this afternoon all the way out to I-70. And unfortunately the first responders are having a tough go of it because they're seeing so many so many problems with folks trying to drive out and about here this afternoon. And this is down on Parker Road, right down by Broncos Parkway. So this is south of Arapahoe Road before you would get to E-470. Some of the cameras that I wanted to show you down by Franktown and down by the Pinery aren't quite working right now, but these are the conditions. You can see the wind is blowing the snow, and we've had numerous cars that are still abandoned and some folks that are still stranded on Highway 86 outside of Franktown to Kiowa and out to Elizabeth. And so it is going to be very, very dangerous conditions for us out there to the Eastern Plains. And Shannon and Ann, I don't think we're going to see those northeastern roads that are probably going to be reopening until probably midday tomorrow. That probably includes I-76 and I-70 trying to get out to the Eastern Plains.
Well, yeah, this clearly is a monster storm. In fact, I was thinking you could play spin the wheel on that on those maps and really see major traffic problems just about on any road in Colorado. This is a monster of a storm.
Monster storm, and I know we've been talking about don't drive, and we're showing the problems to people who are driving, therefore take public transportation. Aha! There is starting to get a little gummed up for RTD, and joining us on the phone right now, Lori Huff. Lori, thank you, and I see you've been running at 30 to 60-minute delays, depending on if it's light rail or buses.
That's correct. Light rail at this point is running on a 30 to 60-minute delay across all of our lines. Buses are running about an hour to 90 minutes behind schedule.
And even the A line, I know we were recommending that for folks who are stuck out at the airport. Is that running?
It is running. The departure times on the University of Colorado A line have been increased from every 15 to every 30 minutes at this point.
So we talked yesterday before this storm that sometimes in blizzard conditions, ice and frozen debris gets up on the wires for the light rail, and that you all were going to run the trains pretty much all night long. Has that been a problem for you?
I wouldn't say it's a problem. We certainly prepare for inclement weather. We know what those issues are going to look like, and we do prepare for them, and we do run trains, as you described. We are ready to a reasonable degree for what we encounter. But that said, as life unfolds, we need to make decisions about the right amount of service to offer, because it is crucially important to us that people remain safe. You know, that safety is the primary responsibility here, ensuring passengers are safe, ensuring that people ultimately need to get where they need to go. For that reason, as the conditions right now are deteriorating, we are determining what services we can continue to operate and for how long. Because it's true, as you described, people know if they've been outside, the roads are wet and icy. In some areas, they're packed with snow. We are subject to the same kinds of conditions that anyone else is. And I would say that if anyone is planning to use RTD services, they need to be prepared for extensive delays and the chance that our vehicles could get stuck as other vehicles might. We are being increasingly impacted as the weather situation deteriorates, and people should understand that this is very likely going to continue into the evening and the morning commute, so they need to plan ahead. They need to think about what that time is going to look like, how they're going to dress properly for it. People need to be patient and allow extra time for travel.
Because, Lori, I'm looking at your latest tweet, which says we encourage everyone to get to their final destination as soon as possible, because service will continue to be impacted. So how do you make those decisions on when to stop service altogether, or to, when delays just get to be too much?
There's a number of factors that play into it. I would say as well that it's important that as service is affected, that people keep looking at our website, they look at our rider alerts, and if people aren't signed up for them, they can go to our website and do so. They should also follow us on Twitter. Our digital team, our folks, our customer care team who are responsible for that have been doing an excellent job keeping our tweets current, so people know what we're up to across the system and they can plan accordingly.
Yeah, so is there an area right now where you're seeing the worst delays or the biggest trouble spots?
I wouldn't say it's a particular area. I would just say, generally speaking, that services are delayed across the system. We did stop service briefly on the free mall ride on the 16th Street Mall, but that's back up at this point. But yeah, as mentioned, departure times across the system, whether we're talking bus, whether we're talking light rail, commuter rail, services are running behind at this point.
So running behind.
We're basically
running behind. I'm sorry, Laura. I've got a couple people talking in my ear. You said running behind. Is there a scenario that RTD would go, no, we just have to stop everything for a little while?
I don't know if that's the case. So certainly, we're going to be prioritizing safety before we make those decisions. I'll tell you that we prioritize the service that we're delivering right now for the afternoon and the evening peak period. The highest priority is being given to the regional services and the routes that run at a low frequency.
All right, Lori Huff, thank you so much from RTD for the updates on the changing conditions for RTD service as well.
We spoke to Mark Stutz from Excel on the phone about an hour ago. At that time, we had about 1,900 customers without service. Let's get an update now on power outages, which is another problem in the middle of the blizzard of 2019. Jessica Porter's in the newsroom with that.
Well, Shannon, and unfortunately, that number has jumped. We've been seeing a lot of video of downed trees, windy conditions, and of course, that is going to affect power. Xcel Energy is reporting now over 200,000 customers without power. They don't have any restoration times right now, and they're telling customers that they may be without power all night. Now, they said these are extensive outages that are due to high winds that have damaged a lot of lines and poles, and they have called extra crews, and they said they're even going to ask for assistance from other utility companies. They said this is going to be a multi-day effort. Now, I also want to draw your attention to a tweet Denver Parks and Rec sent out warning people to stay off trails. They are working to clear down trees and snow, and I saw a lot of people walking along Cherry Creek Trail this afternoon, and it really isn't safe with all the wind and the ice that is on the walkway. Now, let's take a look at this video from South Metro Fire. I'm hoping to show you this video showing firefighters actually helping push a Parker police car, a police SUV, out of the snow. So it's showing just about everyone is getting stuck out there. And again, just another warning to stay home, and not just stay home, but stay inside your home. Just conditions all around, from the roads to the walkways, parks, it is all dangerous. reporting live in the newsroom. I'm Jessica Porter, Denver 7.
All right, and just one quick update here. We do see that they have restored some service to 64,000 customers just within the last 15 minutes. That's a new update. Currently, there's 184,000 people without service, but it was more than 200,000 customers without power at a few hours ago.
Right.
So thankfully, they are making some progress on getting service restored.
Because those guys, I mean, who are out there working on it, they're in the middle of these conditions as well. So they're not only dealing with getting our lights back on, but they have to navigate this horrible weather as well.
Yeah, as we've said, we have crews all over the metro, really pretty much all over the state, trying to bring you full coverage of what is happening. Let's go to Major King and tell us where you are, Major, and what you're seeing out there.
Hey, Ann, Shannon, I'm in Wellington. I'm at the Come and Go parking lot right off of I-25. No shocker here. I-25 remains closed at exit 278. That's the Wellington exit. North of here, you just can't go. They had a huge series of crashes up there this morning, I believe involving 7 vehicles, including 3 semis. Believe it or not, they are still getting that cleaned up. They're still getting folks out of there. I believe there might have been some injuries involved too. Some ambulances came down from Cheyenne for that. So it's deceivingly calmer where I'm at right now. I say deceiving because I'm kind of on the leeward side of town, so I got a feeling my wind is kind of getting blocked by the trees in Wellington here. It doesn't seem quite as bad right now at this moment as it was earlier. Earlier I shot some video in Weld County on US 34. I think we've got that video queued up. Look at these conditions. I mean, this was pretty near whiteout along US 34 between Centera and West Greeley. You couldn't hardly see, but not even 100 yards, and it's extremely dangerous conditions. You guys were talking about the power outages. I did speak with David White with the Poudre Valley Rural Electric Association. David told me that at their peak today they had about 1,500 customers who were without power. About an hour ago he said that number was down to 200. So a little bit better situation up here maybe in terms of power. Coming back live here, guys, I really expected to find a whole sea of semis parked here. This is kind of the dropping off point. You can't go any further north, and the semis tend to hunker down here at the Come and Go and at the Shell station across the way there, but I'm just not seeing it. So I think the word must have really gotten out with the truckers. I know I spoke with my brother Matt in Lincoln, Nebraska. He's a long haul truck driver, and he was scheduled to make a insulation delivery to Cheyenne tonight. They put that off by a day. He's not leaving till tomorrow, so he's loving life in balmy 60-degree Lincoln, Nebraska at this moment, which just seems hard to believe it, but I guess we had that yesterday. So much moisture in this storm. I want to pan on over and just kind of stretch this out and show you guys how this snow is just accumulating here in the parking lot. I'm going to get my boots totally soggy here, but this this water is about 4 inches deep here on the downside of the parking lot. So so much moisture in the snow, and that's a good thing. The farmers have a saying, this is what we call $1 million snowfall for obvious reasons. We need the moisture for the crops. Planting season is coming up, and with all the rain that started in Fort Collins sometime between midnight and 3 a.m., it was raining hard when I woke up at 4. It just really soaked into the ground, and that's a good thing for the farmers. We just really need the moisture. We've been behind in Fort Collins, in northern Colorado, really, in our moisture for quite some time now. So we really need this in our groundwaters up here. I mean, the mountains have been getting hammered. They're well above average statewide in terms of moisture, but locally, I'm talking about just right here in Larimer County and western Weld County, it's been actually dry. So $1 million snowfall, I'm glad to have it. It means we won't have to cover wildfires for a while.
Yeah.
And, it's the snow continues to come down, Shannon, but just to wrap it up here, it does seem a little bit lighter. I don't know if it's just a lull or if it's just because I'm on the leeward side of the trees here in town, but not nearly as bad as it was along US 34 towards Greeley just an hour and a half ago.
Good to hear. Maybe you've just become used to it. Major thanks. And he's right. We appreciate that. Be safe up there in north of Denver.
He's
there.
in Wellington, yes.
In Wellington. So he's right, though. On the other side of this, it's going to be fantastic for our water supply, for the crops, and all that.
And it forces us all to just slow down for the day. And
we have to get through this first.
Yes, we definitely do. But it is so bad out there that in Weld County, they have literally stopped plowing the roads.
Well, Roy Rudisell, he's Weld County Director of Emergency Management, is on the phone. That's pretty bad when you can't plow the roads there, Roy.
Yes, it gets a little difficult.
So what, describe the conditions in Weld County.
Well, it was predicted from the National Weather Service, the storm coming in changed from rain to snow early this morning, or I should say late morning, around 11 o'clock. We started getting the snow, and so obviously we had our plow crews out doing their job. But probably about an hour ago, we got into the situation where we had a lot of our folks were in whiteout conditions, couldn't see the edge of the road. So part of our emergency planning for our Public Works Department is that once we get to that level is, for the safety of our operators, we make sure that they get into a location that's safe for them. So they go back to the grader sheds where they keep the plow trucks or the graders, and then try to wait out those high winds until it becomes a position where the winds die down enough to where they can get out and start plowing. The only difference would be is if we have first responders that need to get out to a call and need help from a plow driver to be able to plow the road in order to get to the call for service, then they would go out and help that and make that a possibility. So again, as we see this kind of weather come in, this is part of our planning process that we do. Our Public Works Director works really well with our operators in the field and stuff like that. So this is something that we ran into. It's not uncommon during blizzard conditions to do that. And again, it's really important that we make sure that if people don't need to be out on the road, then don't do that.
And so, Roy, just give us an idea of when you are able to get back out there, where will you begin? Where do you primarily start your efforts out in Weld County?
Well, so our Public Works Director and the crews with our Public Works Department, they have set up specific routes that they work. So obviously we start on the paved roads first. We don't do anything on state highways. That we leave that to CDOT. But all of our paved roads, they have different routes set up. And so as soon as it's clear enough for those guys to get back out there, they'll start out and start working on all the routes and get it available.
Aside, Roy, from the plow situation, as Director of Emergency Management, have there been any emergencies, anything that you've had to adjust for today that this storm has brought on?
Well, I think most of it was the number of traffic accidents that took place early on when the snow first changed over. As has been mentioned earlier, we had a lot of rain, so we had a lot of standing water on the roadways, and then the snow started sticking, and so it became slushy. So that created a lot of slide-offs, a lot of accidents. So we do have a lot of highways that are closed. I'm sure that's been mentioned. I-76 has been closed. Highway 34 east of Kersey has been closed. So travel conditions have been kind of an issue. But I think most of it is our guys, first responders, have been able to handle the accidents that have taken place, get people off the roads, that type of thing. So from a emergency management standpoint, really, our first responders have been able to handle the calls for service out there and continue to work for that. We continue to monitor the weather, what's happening, what's going on. But I think for the most part, it's just been the accidents at this point.
Well, we certainly hope conditions improve out there in Weld County so your folks can get back on the roads and plowing once again. Roy Rudisil, thank you so much, the Director of Emergency Services out in Weld County. I just want to add one quick note. We did get a note from Jeffco Schools. I know kids are sitting at home going, is there going to be school tomorrow?
Well,
Jeffco Schools has not made a call on that yet. They say they will likely do so later on this evening, much like they did last night. So no word on any school closures just yet, but Jeffco did send that out and saying it will be later on this evening.
Yeah, and they were the last ones, I think, last night to call for today. So stick around, stay tuned for that. Let's go to Parker now. Our executive producer in our sports department, Jeff Howe, is doing weather duty for us tonight and joins us live on the phone. Or no, in front of a camera. Where are you and what are you seeing?
Hey guys, I hear Major saying it's slowing down up there. I tell you what, in Parker, it hasn't slowed down all day. I'm here about I'm at like Jordan Road in the E470, and this is a Stonegate community, which is a very big community. And I'm going to go behind the camera and show you here because it hasn't been plowed, so everyone's getting stuck trying to get in because they're trying to drive and they're hitting drifts. I went over and talked to this lady, and she's happy, but she's hanging out in the car. I tried to shovel under her car because she high pointed it, she's going to have to maybe red flag that and go home with, hopefully this is like someone she knows. There's about 6 other cars farther down the development, and they've been trying to push each other out and do stuff. The problem down here is you have ice and it's flat and they think they can drive, but then they hit like a 4-foot drift. So I have gaiters on, and I was almost going to put my snowshoes on because between the wind and the drifts, it's even harder walking around down here. So it's been an entertaining day, and as you guys know, I like being outside, but this is a little something different.
Well, incredible conditions there, and really just all over the metro right now. And I think it's that blowing snow that is creating such a problem for so many folks right now.
Jeff Howe, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Now, as we continue the saga of as Denver Sevens world turns, when last we check in with Jace Larson, he was getting ready to shovel in 5 points. Let's go back out live to Jace Larson in Denver. Jace?
So I have no shovel because I gave up on that. The snow was just coming down too hard. I walked a few blocks just a few minutes ago, though, and I did find some few great people who were out shoveling their walkway. One guy said, how many times have you done this so far today? And he said, this is my 3rd. And you could tell a little bit that his walkway had been shoveled, but it didn't look all that much different from the person right next to him, who I'm guessing hadn't shoveled much at all. We are seeing some tree branches that are falling down now. I mentioned this when we last talked last hour. Right now where I'm at here is Broadway and Stout Street, and there's not any branches that I see immediately right here, but as you walk around some of these residential neighborhoods, you can see where the snow has just become too much for some of the tree branches. When you look at downtown here, anybody who ever comes down here knows you can often see just many big buildings as Denver continues to grow. Now we can only see a few of them. In terms of what the conditions are right now, the snow is coming down. I wouldn't say it's snowing obscenely hard though, and the wind kind of comes and goes as you walk around the building. Sometimes the wind gets funneled a little bit more towards you. When we look at the road conditions out here now, I mean, there's certainly obviously snow covered out there, but I wouldn't say that this is anything close to the worst that we've seen as people who have lived in Colorado for quite some time know. The cars still seem to be getting through right here. I'm not seeing them spin out at all. My guess would be because it hasn't frozen solid yet. So that happens sometimes in these neighborhoods the next day when people are trying to go to work. So right now I haven't seen cars really spin out. We're not having any trouble with the stoplights. Most of them seem to be functioning around here. And unlike earlier when I was out in the eastern part of the metro area, you can still see the stoplights here. They haven't been covered with so much snow, but that wasn't the case when I was out in the Stapleton neighborhood earlier. Those people are going to have something difficult because the snow is actually kind of caking around the LED bulbs that are inside there. So I would say if you didn't have to go to work today, and if there weren't people who were trying to figure out how to dig out on the highways here, because that is obviously no fun, it's actually kind of nice in a way out here where I'm standing because the snow is coming down and we don't have that intense wind that we've had. Again, as we start to see some cars go by here, obviously this is much less. This is Broadway that you're looking at right here. Many fewer cars than we would ever see at this time in a typical afternoon. But right now, we're just not seeing a ton of them. We do have 2 buses right here. One is headed to Thornton. I couldn't see where the other one is going. And then we've got another RTD bus down there. They're definitely out here operating. Here's another one actually going up US 36. Guys, we'll continue to watch what's going on out here, and you enjoy your places back there where it's warm.
We certainly are enjoying that and appreciate your hard work out there, along with all the other folks who are braving this storm to give us some perspective on what's happening with this blizzard of 2019.
And we've just learned Governor Polis has authorized the National Guard to help the stranded motorists. We reported that earlier. Kiowa Fire had actually requested help, but the governor now has given authorization. That's how bad it is out there, Mike Nelson. So you said, I don't know, maybe half hour ago, we were just kind of hitting the peak of the storm.
We are for most locations, as a matter of fact. The snow's still coming down quite hard in many areas along the Front Range. Just a few scenes from some of our viewers. This is David Traum up in Windsor, and this was about an hour ago, blowing big time up there. This was out at my house with the height of the storm about 45 minutes ago, southeast Aurora, and not far from where Jeff Howe was reporting. So this is like Gartrell and E470 and the Heritage Eagle Bend neighborhood. You can see the birds were happy to have some food, but boy, that wind is really, really blowing. And then Lionel sent this in from Highlands Ranch with the snow blowing in that area as well. As far as the conditions, it's the deep low pressure system that's moving on out of here. The beauty of this is, even though it's a really intense inland hurricane, if you will, it's going to move quickly as it heads off and moves farther out to the north and east of us. So far, the snow total is about 18 at Netherland, 15 at Genesee, 13 Aspen Park, Estes Park, close to a foot. Evergreen, about 8. We've had 6 to 7, close to 8 now down over parts of Douglas County, Elbert County, southeast Aurora. But it is blowing sideways. You can see the winds going so fast that it's hard to tell in some locations. 58 miles an hour at the top of the hour at DI, 61 at Fort Morgan, 77 mile per hour gusts out at Lyman. High wind warning, blizzard warning on the eastern plains, avalanche warning, winter storm warning up into the mountains. The worst of this activity is out across northeastern Colorado. The blizzard warning will continue through tonight. Closed roads, power outages. Denver area, we're at the worst of it now, but it's going to start to begin to ease off to the east of us, and we'll start to see conditions improving from southwest to northeast across the Front Range. But big swirl around this low pressure system as it continues to move out into Kansas now. The heavier snow is coming in behind it. The rain still right on the eastern plains, and some thunderstorm activity right now out in the Burlington area. Snows continue here, but you can see that heavier, darker band is actually eased a little bit off to the north and to the east of Denver. We may still get some bursts of heavier snow, but the strongest of the activity is now over southern Weld County, around the Keensburg, Roggen area, extending out toward Bennett and out toward Deer Trail and a little bit farther to the east. Certainly snowing hard in Akron. Here's our Viero camera there. Heavy snow falling in Akron. This is the current shot in Burlington. I think the lightning strikes that have occurred there might have taken that camera out. I just saw it live a moment ago. That's City Park out at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. There's still heavy snow and poor visibility. And Fort Morgan, obviously the same kind of thing. I'm going to get off of this particular view then, because it looks like the storm out there has had an impact on some of our cameras. Let me show you what's going on in the big picture. Here is 6 o'clock tonight. That low pressure system will be a little bit to the east of Goodland, Kansas. We have the snow and the wind still coming in here. The blizzard warning continues. Heavy snow and slow travel still a problem in the mountains, and that intense low pressure moving away from us. Now tonight, that low is going to continue to move quickly off to the northeast. Through midnight, the blizzard warning continues on the northeast plains. The strong winds continue down across southeast Colorado. The snow continues in the mountains, but lighter. And by early tomorrow morning, that snow, even though it's going to continue in the mountains with another, say, 3 to 5 inches overnight, it will be lightening up quite a bit. Strong winds will continue, and the northeast corner of the state will still be under the blizzard warning early tomorrow. So here's your Thursday morning. Slick and very slow conditions. As far as the schools opening back up, it will really be a combination of how quickly the snow moves out tonight and how quickly the road crews can get things fixed up. I think we'll still have a lot of closed roads tomorrow morning out on the eastern plains, snow-covered roads in the mountains, and they'll be icy and slick over the metro area. By the time that we get to around 9 a.m., I still think we'll have some road closures out there, but still slick and very slow across much of the Front Range. The snow-covered roads continue in the mountains. Northwest winds still 20 to 40 miles per hour tomorrow afternoon over northeastern Colorado. Snow-covered roads will remain in the mountains, but it does start to improve a little bit later in the day. The snow-covered roads will still be central and northern mountains. Clearing, windy, and cold conditions expected on the plains, and gradually improving weather coming up as we head into Friday. So on the extended forecast, will be 32 for tomorrow, but 42 on Friday. But note those morning lows dropping down into the teens. Milder Saturday with 48, and then some days in the 50s for Sunday and Monday will melt a lot of snow away. Some mountain snow returns Tuesday, and then mostly sunny and mid-50s coming up by the time we get to next Wednesday. A lot of travel trouble out there, and for more on it, here's Jason.
Yeah, Mike, I was just talking to somebody on Twitter, and he says that he's down in this area. So this is the area of I-25 right down in Greenland, which is just south of the Larkspur area. And there are some abandoned trucks down here and cars and people that are still stuck. And this one viewer and Twitter follower says there are motorists still stranded here on I-25 south of Castle Rock around mile marker 173, which is going to be right there in Larkspur. He says it's bumper to bumper, have not moved since noon. Is there help on the way? And so, yes, there is help on the way. I also sent this message to the State Patrol there in Castle Rock. And the Castle Rock State Patrol then says the rescue of stranded motorists between Larkspur and Monument continues right now. Multiple vehicles are still stuck in the snowdrifts. This will be an extensive closure. according to the State Patrol there in Castle Rock. They say they cannot discourage travel in southern Douglas County strongly enough. And then somebody else on my next door, since I live in Castle Pines, was asking me about if you can actually pass or get into from Castle Pines at work, and he wanted to get down to Castle Rock where he lives. And I said the I-25 is closed down, and unfortunately there are some State Patrol folks that are actually watching folks that are coming from that area, trying to keep them off of I-25. There are some back roads they could take, and I was giving them as alternate routes right now. So I wanted to start take a look at the map down that way. And so this is the area of I-25 from basically the Denver Tech Center area all the way through Castle Rock, down here through Larkspur and continuing south to Monument. That area north and southbound is closed down, and Highway 83 south of Franktown is closed down. We've also had numerous rescues going on 86 east of Franktown through Elizabeth and Kiowa. This has been a really tough area, and actually Arapahoe County, they said that they are using snowcats to help remove and rescue stranded motorists out there on Quincy, east on in some of the county roads out that way in Arapahoe County, because it is so nasty on the eastern part of the county that they're having to rescue folks that way. So this remains closed down. It will remain closed down. My gut feeling says that this section south of Castle Rock, basically through Larkspur and Monument, will be closed down and probably until tomorrow, maybe mid-morning. They might, as soon as some of the winds abate, be able to open I-25 between Castle Rock and the Denver Tech Center if the conditions warrant that. That would be the first part of I-25 that would reopen, and then this section of I-25 and Highway 83 would remain closed. 105, which is going a little bit west, has not officially been closed, but obviously travel is extremely discouraged going from the Palmer Lake area all the way up to just on the west side of Castle Rock, and then trying to get up into Sedalia and Highway 85. Highway 85 is open right now if you wanted to use that to go between Castle Rock, Highlands Ranch, and up to C470, which also remains open. Basically, the ring around Denver is all open, but it's still not easy to travel around here by any means. There are still many issues on Pena Boulevard to and from the airport, and we've had unofficial closures of Pena Boulevard because of it. I-70 obviously is closed down to the east. They call it at Air Park, which is basically east of E470. It goes over to Front Range Airport, but they should say it's closed at E470 all the way east, and it will remain that way all the way through, I think, midday tomorrow. Same thing on I-76. They have that closed down here at Highway 85, which remains open to go to Greeley and Fort Lupton and get into Brighton. If you need to get up that way, you can. And I-25 is open as well going north. If you need to go up into Fort Collins, you can get there. But going north of Wellington up into Cheyenne, that's closed down. 287 out of Ted's Place is all closed down, and so is Highway 85, because most of Wyoming is closed down right now, and they don't want to send you up that way into closed areas where there aren't any services and keep you in areas like in Fort Collins where there are hotel rooms and restaurants and places for you to stay and get gassed up and that sort of thing. I-70 still remains closed down as well. Basically, Idaho Springs all the way down to Morrison. There are still some crashes being cleared, and there are some folks that are still on the roadways trying to get through there, albeit very slowly, and it's going to take quite a bit of time. Ann and Shannon, Denver told me that they have now 110 crashes so far this afternoon. They are still on accident alert. Obviously, most of the areas are on accident alert, but that's a pretty good figure, pretty big figure, especially with so few cars that are on the road right now.
No, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
That maybe all the cars that were on the road are now in those accidents.
Well, precisely the reason why the governor called out the Colorado National Guard for those folks who are stuck, who need to be rescued. The Colorado National Guard is out there making those rescues right now, because we've heard of several shelters that have been set up at least in Kiowa, Douglas County, and so forth, because that blowing snow is such an issue right now, and there are new power outages that we have to report as well.
New power outage. IREA, 3,000, just shy of 4,000 customers without power right now. This is between Parker and Castle Rock. Most is because of power line problems, trees hitting the power lines. We've been talking about this. This is a thick, wet, heavy snow that's coming on down. We've also, some buses were being used actually in Douglas County to help some of the stranded motorists. We've seen troopers actually picking up motorists, taking them to shelters in addition to the National Guard.
Yeah, the Doug Coast schools are actually utilizing their school buses. They're following the plows and following those first responders and picking up motorists who are stranded. So that is one way they are helping. We have mentioned schools here a couple of times. We already know that Bennett, Byers and Elbert schools are closed, and you probably anticipated that, knowing that this storm is really hitting hard to the north of the metro area. So Bennett, Byers, and Elbert schools and Morgan schools shut down right now. We don't know anything yet about the metro area schools, but those are the latest details that we have so far.
And we have a growing list of shelters in addition to what we missed. Douglas County Fairgrounds, Berthoud, Brighton Fire Station, Elbert County Fairgrounds, St. Peter's Catholic Church and Monument being used for a shelter, Kilmer Elementary in Colorado Springs being used for a shelter, and on and on. And we'll keep updating this list. Please make use of our resource, our digital resources, in addition to being on air, denverchannel.com. Download the Denver 7 mobile app. It's been very useful in weather events like this.
That's right. We are constantly updating on every platform that we have because this information constantly changes.
Yeah.
Weld County, for example, they had stopped plowing altogether just because of the blowing snow conditions. So another reason to just stay at home tonight because it's just not safe. And this storm is not winding down yet.
Right. How bad are the roads? They're not plowing the roads. They're so bad right now. Another problem area has been Denver International Airport. Not officially closed, but all the runways are closed. So I don't really know the difference.
No one's going anywhere, exactly.
It's a technical difference there. Jackie Correa, though, is live in what is open at DIA. Jackie?
Hey guys, last numbers we got was, come on, go through. More than 1,300 flights have been canceled, and we're really it seems very busy because if you remember, the airport's under construction, so everyone's kind of just finding a place to get cozy. You can see everybody that's either landed this morning somehow, the last flight to touchdown, or we're expecting to get a connecting flight, just have no idea what's going to happen. Obviously, they can take a look outside and see. The sun seemed to have peeked through a little bit, but that storm's still coming through pretty strongly here. We've talked to so many people that were trying to go somewhere warm or just arriving back from some like tropical vacation. And I have to say, the real MVP, Sarah, this place, Cantina Grill, they've had a line since 11 a.m. because everybody's got to eat, and they're probably doing breakfast, lunch, dinner here, trying to figure out what they're going to do next. I'm going to walk this way. We've been talking to several people. Introduce you. Sorry, let's back this way. Ladies, hi. Hi. For example, Debbie and Chrissy had a layover from Philly, and what happened? You're trying to go to San Diego. We are. What happened?
So we flew in on Delta. As soon as we landed on time, but then we were stuck on the runway for 3 hours due to the plane slipping. The plane was stuck, slipping on ice.
They had to tow it with like 3 different tow trucks that were also sliding. So,
did you have any idea that this was what you were going to be landing in?
No. Probably should have watched the Weather Channel, but we didn't.
You checked it yesterday.
We did.
And they were hoping that they would be able to get you to your next location, which is
right, San Diego. But we were planning to stay the day here and fly out on the red eye. So,
and that warm vacation in San Diego probably seems pretty nice. What did you have planned? What did you have planned?
We're going to stay with a friend for the weekend. So,
hiking, surfing,
beach.
All that good stuff. Yeah, beach, hiking, surfing.
And they're like, well, is this how Colorado always is? I mean, it's snowy, and so this is like the worst storm we've had in many years. So what do you think you're planning for tonight? Are you staying in the airport?
You know, we're just taking it by the moment right now, to be honest with you. Yeah, this is the second, so probably getting a third in a minute.
Yeah.
But
do you think that you're going to look for a hotel, or are you going to try and just wait it out here?
We're going to wait it out and get on the next flight out.
Okay.
We decided not to visit Colorado anymore.
Yeah, positive thinking.
Yeah, hopefully something comes along. I don't know what else we can do.
Yeah.
So.
And what airline were you on?
We flew in on Delta, but we were taking Southwest to California.
Thank you so much, ladies. Well, good luck. I hope you don't end up having to stay in the airport.
Thank you.
You know, Southwest was one of the big 3 flights, big 3 airlines that had to cancel their flights yesterday. And it seems like they told you that the last flight to land for Southwest was this morning. So a lot of people camping out since 7 a.m. trying to figure out what they're going to be doing next. Problem is, a lot of the hotels in the area are fully booked. And then if you have a friend or a relative or somebody that was going to come get you from the airport, airport, the roads are impossible. We drove very slowly and safely this morning. Took us about an hour and a half to get here. So that's kind of the dilemma people are in. You know, try to get to a hotel, not quite sure if they can make it safely. It's not worth the risk, and then kind of wait and see if tomorrow would be a better day to get on that plane and go wherever it was that they were planning to. I said before, more than 1,300 flights have been canceled. The airport is open. They're not going to kick anybody out, of course. They're just going to feed them, do what they can. A lot of the open restaurants here are dealing with a lot more customers probably than they're used to. Security lines, no one there. I mean, we've got all the runways shut down for now. So I think it's probably just a waiting game, but lots of people just kind of hanging out and hoping something works out. But that's kind of what's going on here, guys. I'll send it back to you.
Yeah, and just one quick note, Jackie. I'm looking at RTD, and we had talked earlier about the A line as an option to get out of DIA. Well, it looks like there is a frozen switch near 61st and Pena, so they're saying that airline trains are at a standstill right now, so that is certainly not an option. So I just want to make sure that that folks out there know that as well. If you have a chance to talk to people who are thinking,
spread the good word.
to get on that A line, it doesn't seem to be moving right now, and no ETA on when that might be fixed, but crews are out there trying to work on that right now.
Christmas in March for the concessions and stores that are open at Denver International Airport. Shelters are also having to open right now to accommodate all the problems that this blizzard of 2019 is causing. Andrea Carlson is on the phone from the Red Cross. Thanks for joining us. Good afternoon, Andrea.
Hi, guys. Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
How are you mobilizing out there, Andrea?
You know, we have all sorts of things going on across the state of Colorado and also Wyoming, try to help accommodate anybody that's out there in this storm. We've been working with our partners throughout the different cities, really setting up warming stations and shelters wherever those have been needed at this point in time. We have a long list of some places all across the state. And as the storm continues to move across the state, we're identifying and working with other cities and emergency managers as to where other areas and other shelters should be set up so that we can make sure we're providing people with everything that they need to help them get through this storm.
So, Andrea, tell us exactly who these shelters are for. Who is making use of these shelters?
Yeah, so, you know, it really depends. In some areas where folks have completely lost power, we have some individuals that have gone there so that they are getting some comfort and some emergency necessities, coffee, snacks, things like that. We also have a lot of stranded motorists who honestly went into work this morning, tried to head home and couldn't make it. So we've got several shelters up like that. We have folks who have been on the road, and as highways started closing down or having major issues, people got off the road. And so you'll really see that along some of that I-25 corridor, in the Castle Rock Monument areas. We certainly, you know, that tends to be what we see along those areas, but really anybody who needs those places right now, we are having them go and really getting them all the help they need.
So you are mobilizing crews, you're literally sending people out to these shelter areas?
You know what? That is the power of volunteers. They are incredible individuals. We have volunteers in several of these areas that we have been able to reach out to. For some of these folks, these are all identified shelter and warming places that we work on throughout the year. And so we have a core group of volunteers in those general areas. Some are just down the road. Some have been there since this morning. So when we started mobilizing crews yesterday, we really went to our known places across the state of where we know where those pockets are that we need to have these shelters set up based on our knowledge from past storms and other situations. And we rely on an incredible group of volunteers and staff who help make this happen.
And where are those busiest shelters right now, Andrea?
Sure. So depending on where the storm has hit in some of those harder hit areas, the areas along Castle Rock and Monument always tend to be heavily hit. We have some areas out north, east that have been seeing an increase as the storm continues to hit there. And then a couple spots down south that were hit earlier in the day that they're starting to have some folks kind of show in and trickle in. So, it really varies as those storms hit, and it'll continue to change number-wise throughout the night.
And Andrea, these shelters that are open, will these be open overnight, or this just for today and this afternoon?
Sure. So in many of these cases, we have these shelters set up for as long as they're needed until people can get back home safely. It's really going to depend on what the need is for some of those individual shelters and what the capacity is. In many of these cases, when we start to set up a shelter, we have the knowledge that this could be a day or so, depending upon the storm, and so they have the cots and they have the supplies they need to help work, get through the storm. And then we work with our emergency managers in the area to ensure that we are all properly providing everything we need and we're getting everybody all the help they can.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Andrea Carlson from the Red Cross. One quick note from the city of Lakewood. They are reminding us that if you're going to be out driving and we know that there's that blowing snow out there and you see street lights that you can't tell if they're red or green, they're suggesting that you use those as a four-way stop, because we are seeing multiple reports of people who there is no visibility out there, or people are running red lights because they just can't tell, and really the smart thing to do is treat that as a four-way stop, and that was one of the suggestions from the city of Lakewood right now with these crazy conditions.
Very good suggestion. I know coming up Santa Fe, nobody wanted to stop for the cross traffic, which when there weren't any lights or they were on flashing red or flashing yellow. So great advice there. Liz Gilardi joins us live. She joins the party now, live at Denver's Union Station. I know rails are running slowly, but what else can you tell us there, Liz?
Well, RTD's message is they are impacted by the weather just like everyone else, and right now that means pretty heavy delays on all forms of transit, and they say they don't know how long they're going to continue to be able to provide service at this point, but they say conditions are going downhill very quickly. We've been hearing announcements out here on the train platform for the A line, and the A line is running on 30-minute delays. Trains usually here every 15 minutes. Instead, that's every 30 minutes. And then there's also delays getting to the airport. We just heard about that frozen switch impacting the A line, and travelers are here trying to get to the airport. I'm sorry, this wind is just so bad. They're trying to get to the airport, and they just don't know if they're going to be able to get out tonight, but some are still trying to make their way there, and they say really the A-line is still maybe their best option just because of taxis and other methods of transit. It's just going to take so long. We also know that buses are running on a 60 to 90 minute delay, and then light rail on a 30 to 60 minute delay. RTD is saying right now, just try to get to your final destination and stay there. They say that what they can offer right now is transit, but it is impacted, and they're not sure what kind of service they're going to be able to continue to offer into the night. So we've been talking with passengers out here, and really they're just trying to get to the airport and hopefully get out. That wind just takes your breath away. Reporting live at Union Station, Liz Gilardi, Denver 7.
Oh, thank you, Liz.
Thank you, Liz. And that is just indicative of all conditions all over the state of Colorado right now. I'm looking at Pueblo, I'm looking at Colorado Springs, the northeastern part of the state, where there are just whiteout conditions all over the state, and that wind is just such a strong element right now. So they are really just telling people just to stay home.
Yeah, they're calling this a statewide blizzard, a statewide storm right now. Speaking of that, Mickey Troust joins us on the phone now, the Emergency Management Center. First of all, what are you managing today in the middle of this terrible storm, Mickey?
Well, the State Emergency Operations Center is activated to a level 2, and our role is to coordinate resources across the state and make sure those local jurisdictions have what they need to keep people safe and to respond to their emergencies.
So what does that mean, emergency 2? Or level 2, excuse me.
So we started a level 4 on a daily basis, and as we add more staff support, initially from the Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, and then work out to our 26 state agencies. So we've added the Colorado National Guard has been authorized to assist with helping get stranded passengers to a safe place, to shelters. So we increase those levels as we bring more partners in. And a level 1 typically means that we've brought in federal partners or all of our state partners.
So, Mickey, what does this mean when the governor has given the go-ahead to make use of the National Guard? Do we get extra funding for that? How is this going to be paid for? Because I know this is going to be a lot of extra man hours today.
Right. So the governor did verbally declare an emergency this afternoon, which authorizes the use of the Guard. That also gives us access to the Disaster Emergency Fund and also opens up resource mobilization. So we do have those resources available. And again, as we work with our local jurisdictions and they have resource needs, we will help them get those so that we can keep people safe, get them to safe shelters, and hopefully they'll just choose to stay home today.
And Mickey, do you have any ideas to the number of rescues, the efforts of the National Guard so far?
So they aren't out working yet. We just received the verbal authorization. The State Emergency Operations Center is working with counties to prioritize the emergency needs across the state because we have many more missions across the state to keep track of. So we will get out and get to everyone, but the prioritization is taking place right now.
All right, Mickey Trouse, thank you very much for your time. Be safe and good luck, and thanks for everything you all are doing today.
So as you are watching this live picture, you can see just how lousy traffic conditions are out there. Let's get to Jason Luber now, our traffic expert, and there must be so many messes out there, Jason.
There are, but thankfully there's a lot of areas where we're not seeing a whole lot of traffic just because so many people have been staying off the roads with the schools closed, businesses closed, that sort of thing. I want to get you this update as I've been talking to a few people who have been stranded on I-25 south of Larkspur down to Monument and on I-25. Douglas County Sheriff sent out and they said, we have a car with lights on, a snowplow, and a school bus all going together, driving the worst roads, scooping up stranded drivers, and then taking them to shelters. So they're putting them in the school bus and then going to take them to the shelter either at the fairgrounds or down at the in downtown Larkspur. They say don't leave your vehicles. That's great advice because this section of I-25 is all closed down, Castle Rock all the way down to Monument. I think, at least my gut tells me, is that we're going to open up the area between Castle Rock and the Denver Tech Center before we'll open up the south side. That's because if the conditions start to warrant where they can actually get the plows in there, they'll be able to open that up. But the south side, I think that's going to remain closed down. And you also heard about some of the traffic light problems down there as the snow has been blowing on some of the traffic lights. The traffic lights are LED lights now. That's why you see so many of them, about 30 or 40 or 50 of them all in one clump. That's so the lights don't go out all at once. You can have a couple of those bulbs go out, but you still basically see the light. Unlike the old incandescent light bulbs, they used to throw out some heat, and it would actually melt some of the snow. We don't have that with the LEDs, and so that's why it's tough to see some of the lights. Take a look at the stranded traffic down there on I-25. Take a look at the camera from the screenwriter, if you would. There you go. And you can see these are the drivers. This is live, and this is actually a live camera, and those drivers are all stuck right now on I-25 down there in Douglas County, and help is on the way. I was talking to some folks that want to stay with their car. They just want to be turned around and let to go home, but it looks like the help is on the way, and they might just make them stay out there and then take them to a shelter and then figure out what's going to happen. So we'll have continuing coverage here through our 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock newscasts of all these conditions and give you all the reporters of what's going on. We're going to start right now with Denver 7 News, starting right here at 4 o'clock.
And welcome to Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Ann Trujillo.
And I'm Shannon Ogden. We hope you're safe. We're glad you're with us. And we really hope you are indoors right now because obviously it is a first alert action day right now. We have this definitely a blizzard. We've called it a bomb cyclone, but it is a winter mess. As this is a live look now at really some of the dangerous conditions across the metro. Now, things have gotten so bad, the governor just now authorized the National Guard to go out and help people stranded out on the roads out there.
It is a whiteout in most areas. Literally, we're talking the entire state of Colorado right now with blowing snow, bringing down trees, grounding flights out of DIA, and causing some serious pileups on really all of our major roadways out there. Now, if you're home and watching us, that means you are not one of the hundreds of thousands of Coloradans who are without power right now. Just be sure and check out the outage map. This is from Xcel Energy. The utility company has been dealing with hundreds of outages really across the state. You see them right there on that map. Right now, there's about 130,000 homes without power, and Xcel is working, hoping to be able to get power restored as quickly as possible. However, the blizzard conditions are certainly making that a very difficult and dangerous job today on this terrible day. Chief Meteorologist Mike Nelson standing by. Mike, how long will these dangerous conditions last?
Well, for the Denver area till about 10 o'clock or so, and they'll improve quite a bit by the time we get to midnight. Out on the eastern plains, it's going to be all night long. You want to see what 70-mile-an-hour winds and heavy snow look like? This is a live camera from our Viero camera network. This is right now in Lyman, Colorado, and look at that, just blowing sideways, zero visibility, and just an awful late afternoon. We've had some real problems. This is earlier this afternoon, about an hour and a half ago, up in Windsor, the strong winds blowing there. This is at my house down in southeast Aurora. The birds really trying to hang on out there. And just across the street, this just came in from my neighbor, Bill Biggie, and this is in Vernon Marion's backyard across the street from my house, where a 20-foot pine tree has fallen down there in the strong winds down in the Heritage Eagle Bend neighborhood. How strong are the winds? Well, right now, blowing 40-mile-an-hour gusts at Broomfield, 49 at Bennett, 46 at Parker, 48 at Fort Morgan, 74 miles an hour in Lyman. The reason we're getting the power outages, the wind blowing that heavy wet snow onto the transmission lines. They form a little wing on the wire. Then that wire starts to dance around or gallop, and that's when you get an arcing power line and you get the power outages. How much snow have we seen so far? 18 at Netherland, 15 at Genesee, 13 at Aspen Park, nearly a foot at Evergreen, 10 inches so far at Evergreen, and this is what it looks like across the Front Range. Blizzard warnings will continue northeast Colorado. That's the worst of it. Throughout the evening hours, roads closed, power outages, and quite a bit more snow to fall over northeastern Colorado. When it all wraps up, I'll have more details on that in a few more minutes.
Oh, Mike, thank you for that, and for all your work today, and for all the work you're going to do throughout the evening. Now, I-25 has been closed up and down the corridor through the state all day long because of the whiteout conditions, and also because of all the crashes.
That's right. Denver 7's Jason Grunauer. He's out near Monument right now, where one pileup still has the interstate shut down right now.
The snow and the drifts are just starting to kind of pick up here in Castle Rock, but the story really isn't the snow. It's the wind and the visibility and the highway. That is the guardrail of the exit here at Plum Creek Parkway of I-25. You don't see any cars going in either direction. That's because that highway is completely shut down all the way from Monument all the way north to Ridgegate. That is just a little bit south of 470. The reason why? The conditions and a whole lot of that. You can see a car just off the road here, this frontage road. I spoke to one individual, said he was trying to get up from Colorado Springs. He made it here to just south of Castle Rock, and it took him 4 hours because not only are there spin outs, are there backups, but then along the frontage roads, people spin out, they try to go around each other, and they end up in their own type of situation that is either stuck on the highway or stuck here. A tweet from CDOT, though, says that they will not allow people who are stuck on closed highways to stay there. They're going to be going through and trying to pull them off. One person who's happy he is not stuck on that highway, that would be the driver of that purple and black bus, the Bustang, trying to make his way back down to Colorado Springs. We spoke to him. He said it is his 1-year anniversary of driving for the Bustang. He was trying to get home, pulled off, chained up, and that's when they closed down the highway. He, along with several other truckers here, are just trying to wait to get back on the highway. It is still frigid. It is very windy, gusts going from 30 miles an hour all the way up to the point where they can blow me and my 6'2" frame over. Still no movement up on I-25 other than a few emergency response vehicles as they try to clear things up. According to our Jason Luber, could be quite some time before that opens back up. We are stuck here just south of Castle Rock, and we'll send it back to you.
Jason Grunauer for us tonight near Castle Rock. Thanks, Jason.
And conditions are not changing at all. In fact, let's get to Jason Luber, who's been watching this all morning, all afternoon for us. Jason?
Yeah, it's been extremely dangerous, and add on to what Jason was talking about, I just got that information from the Douglas County Sheriff as they are trying to get folks that are stranded like here. This is actually a live video feed right now of the traffic that is not moving. These folks are stuck in their cars. They're asked to stay in their cars and trucks on I-25. There is some movement now on that southbound side. So we're seeing some slight movement in there in this closure area as they start to get some of these folks to at least get some lanes open, which is welcome news. Because not everybody, as I talked to him on Twitter, want to be stuck here and get taken to a shelter and wait for that closure to reopen sometime tomorrow. So the Douglas County folks are going out there with a school bus, with a snowplow, picking up folks that are stranded and then taking them to the shelters. Take a look at the map and you can see down there This is the area of I-25 closed, basically from the Denver Tech Center through Castle Rock. I think that section will actually open up later on tonight as soon as conditions warrant, and then they can start to plow that and get it open. But I think the area between Castle Rock and Monument will stay closed down for some time. They are still doing rescues on 86, getting out past Franktown and Elizabeth and Kiowa. Same thing in Arapahoe County, where they're using a snowcat to try to rescue some folks that have been out there on the eastern plains in eastern Arapahoe County. To or from DIA, I'm still hearing of folks that are stuck on Pena Boulevard, and they have been for hours and hours and haven't even moved in the last 4 or 5 hours. We're seeing I-70 still closed down to the eastern plains, and I-76 is still closed down from Highway 85 out to the east. I-25 is closed up to Wyoming because that is so tough. And I want to take you out to I-70 because I'm now starting to see some traffic moving on I-70. And I just got information from the Golden State Patrol who says I-70 is being opened from Golden west. They didn't say anything about the eastbound side. They did say from Golden west. Conditions are still pretty rough. Let me move the camera over there and so we can see some of the conditions out there on that area. And now you can take a look at that camera here on Screenwriter and you can see that I-70. I don't see any cars out there, though, Shannon, and it looks pretty bleak. And so the State Patrol might say it's open, but it doesn't look open to me.
Yeah, I see.
It obviously doesn't look like you would want to travel it anyway.
So 3 minutes ago, CDOT sent out I-70 westbound open at exit 262 US 40 Colfax. All lanes open. Road ICU's caution, but looks like people are just avoiding it altogether. Probably
It's a smart
best.
idea.
Yeah. So obviously, I mean, we have said it. We'll say it again. It's just bad out there. Our own crews have had trouble. Out in the plains, it's terrible. I-70 shut down. Multiple jackknife semis we've seen, especially out near the airport. That's been a mess.
Yeah, Denver 7's Jennifer Kovaleski and photographer Jacob Curtis, they were in that crash, got away thankfully unhurt, but we cannot say the same for our news truck. So Jen, we're so glad that you and Jacob are okay out there.
And Shannon, we are definitely in the middle of the mess. As you mentioned, we were in that crash. Fortunately, really what happened was there was no visibility, and all of a sudden this white semi-truck out here on I-70, where you can see all our friends, we've been out here for 5 hours stranded, but we couldn't see the truck in front of us. I alerted Jacob, hey, there's the truck. Luckily, he reacted quickly, swerved to the left. The side mirror is completely gone. It's a goner, and we had the passenger side window shatter, but fortunately it did not fully break. So we were one of the lucky ones, fortunate to not have a lot of damage, but we are still stuck out here stranded on I-70. It has been almost 5 hours. We have not moved at all since we first stopped out here. We are just west of Air Park Road. That's where CDOT has the highway shut down, but we are told the reason for this closure is because of one of dozens, I'm sure now all across the state, another jackknife semi just about a quarter of a mile up the road here. But I want to show you this because this really gives you an idea of what we're dealing with. I mean, there are wind gusts, and this is the snowdrift that has just continued to grow. I don't know how well you can see it, but I want to say we are well over a foot here, and it just continues to pile up, really giving you a better idea as if you look at the truck in front of us. That shows you just how much snow this snowdrift now has, and it just keeps growing every hour. For a while there, it was growing exponentially every 20 to 30 minutes when we would come outside to kind of get a sense of the conditions. But the winds are they've died down a little bit for what that's worth. It's still blowing for sure, but visibility is a little bit better, I would say. It's not great by any means, but at one point our live truck was almost swaying. The wind gusts were so extreme out here. So we are just waiting for any kind of movement, hopeful to get off the highway. Not sure if it's going to require a rescue, but we do have a full tank of gas and some water and granola bars, so we're in good spirits for now, but definitely some very dangerous and extreme conditions. The wind gusts have been very brutal. I want to say 50 to 60 mile per hour at some points throughout the afternoon out here, but we are still stranded and hoping to get some movement in the next little bit. For now, we are live along I-70. I'm Jennifer Kovaleski for Denver 7.
All right, Jen. Yeah, we are hoping that conditions improve for a whole lot of folks out there because these blizzard conditions are causing a whole lot of closures. I mean, we're talking schools, businesses, government closures. You can track all of that on our website, thedenverchannel.com. We will stay here on the air as well, but you can also find a link to the page on our home page. All you have to do is click the closures link that's in the upper right-hand corner of the page. That's where you'll find an up-to-the-minute list of closures. Also, make sure you download our Denver 7 app and turn on your push notifications. We are constantly updating this stuff, so we will send you alerts when we find out about any major road closures or any other dangerous situations that you certainly need to know about.
And Colorado is making sure that no one is without a warm place to stay. The state has opened several emergency shelters. These are them on the map there. Red Cross has opened shelters. We had them on the phone just a few minutes ago. These are in Douglas, Elbert, El Paso, and Larimer counties. Also, there's another up in Cheyenne, Wyoming. We have a full list of all the shelters, all the warming locations on our website, thedenverchannel.com. Click on the live blog for the blizzard to find all those resources. And the blizzard is wreaking havoc really statewide. There's not a road that's not impacted.
And right after this break, we will take you up to another closure on I-70. So stay right there.
Ashley.
Sure, I'm here. Hi. Yeah, that's fine. Do you have his picture to put up? So I can take a look at this press. Yeah, we have a picture. It was just emailed in a press release. His name is Corporal Daniel Groves. Just came out. CSP trooper hit and killed on I-76. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. Well, Shannon, and we're learning. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Safe as we take a live look from our Mile High cam. This is a pretty good example of what the day has been like everywhere. You can't see much, few cars on the road, but the cars that are out there are having a tough time today.
Right now, we do have some breaking news that we want to get you caught up on. This is out of Weld County, where a state patrol officer was struck and killed by a vehicle today. So let's get right to Jessica Porter with the latest. Jess?
Yes, we're just getting word that Colorado State Patrol Corporal Daniel Groves was hit and killed on I-76. This happened at about 11 a.m. this morning. Now, the press release tells us that the corporal got out of his car to investigate a vehicle that had slid off the road when a driver in a Volvo, John Carpenter, 58 of Centennial, crashed into Corporal Groves, and he was transported to Platte Valley Medical Center, but was later declared dead. Now, they are investigating this crash. That driver that hit and killed this Colorado State Patrol corporal is also in the hospital, and they are saying that high speed and poor driving conditions could possibly be the cause that caused this crash. Now, Corporal Groves has started with the Colorado State Patrol back in 2007, and he survived by a partner of 2 years, and they are going to continue to investigate this case. They say no charges have been filed, but we've been reporting all of these crashes, so many people stuck on the roads, very dangerous driving conditions, and this is really the first victim of this storm. Reporting live in the newsroom, Jessica Porter for Denver 7.
All right, thank you. Very sad. Of course, the roads are so dangerous out there, you probably shouldn't even try to get to the high country.
Denver 7's Tony Kowaleski was on his way there when he saw a semi-jackknife. That shut down I-70. You've moved over to I-70 in Colfax, and we have even more problems there, Tony.
Well, yeah, Shannon, and it has been a very interesting day. Around noon, we were heading up, going eastbound, or actually going westbound on I-70. When we got near the Morrison exit, we saw one 18-wheeler that looked like it actually blew into the 18-wheeler in the number 1 lane just left of there. It shut down I-70. Now, we, as you said, are at the Colfax exit. Just within about the last 10 minutes, they have reopened I-70 here at Colfax. You got a few cars going by. We're told it may be open all the way to the Eisenhower Tunnel, but we're still waiting confirmation on that. As you can see, not a whole lot of traffic right now. People taking the word of many right now and staying inside. They also opened up, you can see the eastbound I-70 direction here, trying to get things back to some sort of normalcy. Conditions here on the west side of town really have improved considerably. Not nearly as much wind as we felt around noon, 1 o'clock today. Not as much snow. They've been plowing the roads. Actually, you can see here on the roadway behind me, some of the snow actually melting on the roads and not sticking. So there are some patches where clearly the temperature on the roadway is allowing conditions to improve. And again, I-70 has reopened between here and Eisenhower Tunnel. We are on West Colfax, continuing to monitor conditions, but a whole lot better right now than it was around noon today. Reporting live on I-70, I'm Tony Kowaleski.
And the First Alert Action Day continues. It is getting better in some areas and getting a whole lot worse in others. So the mountains are coated with avalanche and winter storm warnings, blizzard warnings on the plains, high wind warnings over southeastern Colorado. By far, the worst of this is over the northeast quarter of the state. Roads closed, power outages, conditions will remain quite severe through tonight, especially the closer you get out to the Kansas-Nebraska border, where so far the conditions have been mostly rain and not that much snow, but it's now starting to rapidly change as the storm moves in there. We will see conditions slowly begin to improve from west to east across the metro area as the winds will start to die down a little bit and the snows will decrease in the next few hours. Look at the radar over the last 2 hours. The darker colors, that's indicating the heavier bands of snow, and that has really diminished over Denver and moved farther to the east of us. The storm system is very deep, but moving pretty quickly. It's an intense low pressure area that's now in western Kansas. It moved up across the southeast plains this morning, brought us that perfect situation for a lot of upslope conditions here. But now the heaviest of the activity is closer to the low. And you see thunder snow falling out around the Burlington area right now as these bands come down from St. Francis in northwest Kansas down into eastern Colorado. You want to see what thunder snow looks like? This is what it looks like right now in Burlington. Snow beginning to come down and the wind's blowing hard. Let me show you how windy conditions can be. This is what it looked like in southeast Aurora. Out in my neighborhood in Heritage Eagle Bend, where a 20-foot pine tree came down my neighbor's house across the street. And this is what it looks like currently in Akron, Colorado, with the snow and the blowing conditions, visibility almost zero. Fort Morgan currently, we have A lot of heavy snow falling, strong winds blowing, roads are icy and snow covered. Going on with other cities in our Viero camera family, this is what it looks like in Sterling. Roads are snow covered. It's going to get worse there in the next few hours as the storm system lifts farther to the north and east. As far as conditions right now, looking in Julesburg, blowing snow, very poor visibility there. And this is what it looks like right now in Ray, out near the Kansas border. Just beginning to snow, but there's a lot of wind and snow to come. Loveland ski area as the day finishes. It's going to be another powder day coming up for tomorrow. And in City Park, visibility's come up a little bit now, but we've had probably about 4 or 5 inches of snow. That low continues to move off quickly now to the northeast of us. For tonight, the blizzard warning continues northeastern Colorado. It will get better here in the Denver area between now and about 10 o'clock, but there's still slow travel up in the mountains. That intense low pressure system will move away overnight tonight. As it does, the strong winds continue, but gradually the blizzard warning will be shrinking in coverage by early tomorrow. Slick and very slow for the morning drive. We'll still have some road closures out east of Denver, snow-covered roads in the mountains, but worth getting up there for the skiing. Strong winds will continue tomorrow, and then slowly things will start to get better. And as we translate into the next 7 days, it's 42 by Friday, 48 by Saturday, melting off a lot of snow. And by the weekend, looking at pretty nice conditions in the low 50s. So this is bad right now. Gets better for Denver later on tonight. And doesn't take until tomorrow to really get better on the northeast plains. But it will get better.
That'll keep us going.
So we are getting there, and that's a good thing. However, the storm is continuing to make for dangerous conditions across Colorado.
So we're talking to Denver's mayor about the big issues the city prepared for and when you could see the plows on your street.
Back, everyone, to our Storm Coverage 2019. And just when you thought it was starting to lighten up out there, we want to give you this live look at conditions out on our roads right now. We have multiple crews out, and you can see there's still plenty of snow on the road. Traffic conditions too tough out there to even get around yet. So they are still urging people to just stay at home or, I guess, walk like that person, but stay far from the roads because roads are still pretty treacherous out there.
That's right.
Now, Denver Mayor Michael Hancock updated us on how the Mile High City is responding to this blizzard.
He says every major agency was ready for this storm. About 70 plows out there working right now and overnight. Residential trucks will be on the side streets.
The Emergency Operations Center is also up and running to provide extra resources as needed. And the mayor of Denver says he also reached out to Xcel to make sure that areas without power can get back up and running as quickly as possible.
We are aware that about 23,000 customers in the city of Denver are without power right now. Xcel is working around the clock to try to address those outages that have occurred right now. And we just ask people to try to stay as warm as they possibly can, stay in place while Xcel Energy tries to address the issue.
And once the weather does clear out, the city's going to need some time to get everything back up and running to normal. Tomorrow, the city will be on a delayed schedule, opening at 10 o'clock.
So blizzard conditions still making any form of travel right now pretty much nearly impossible.
That's right. Coming up, we're going to head out to DIA, where all 6 runways remain closed. 2019. I'm Shannon Ogden.
And I hope you're staying warm. I'm Ann Trujillo. We want to give you a look outside right now so you can see these blizzard-like conditions for yourself. I know it doesn't look too bad right now, but look at the roads, trying to travel on those roads right now.
And this is a live look from our weather Jeep. Chief photographer Brad Boggett's been out in the middle of it all day. Thank you, Brad, giving us a driver's eye view of just how bad it is out there. And it's been bad all day.
It really has. The blowing snow has caused whiteout conditions all over the state of Colorado that have made even seeing a stoplight in front of you difficult.
And that's if the stoplight is working. We have seen a lot of power outages, thousands of people without service right now. This is the latest XL outage map right now. And at the peak, we had about 200,000 customers without power. So XL's out there working around the clock to get everybody back online. We do have power restored, we've been told, to about 60,000 people, but it's still about 100,000 without power right now.
What a day. Because of the winds and the snow causing the power lines to gallop around and they short out. Here's the wind gust we have right now. 40 Broomfield, 49 at DIA, 40 at Kiowa, 48 Fort Morgan, 74 at Lyman. Let me take you to Lyman. This is a live shot from our Viero wireless camera in Lyman. It's blowing sideways. Visibility very, very poor and an extreme blizzard there. This is what it looks like with thunderstorms in the area around Burlington. Heavy snow starting to fall. Denver City Park, we're starting to see the buildings showing up a little bit off in the distance. Signs the storm is letting up ever so slightly. Blizzard warnings continue through tonight. Northeast Colorado out near the Kansas-Nebraska border. They'll end late this evening for the Denver area, but it's a mess out there on eastern plains of Colorado. It's going to stay that way throughout the afternoon and most of tonight. Road closures, power outages. Things are going to start to get slowly better from Denver off to the east as the most severe conditions start to end between now and about 9 o'clock. Big view. I want to step back for just a second. Look at that swirling, almost like an inland hurricane swirling across Kansas now. And what this storm is going to do tonight, the intense low pressure system will race off to the northeast. That's the difference between this storm and, say, March of 2003 when the storm stalled over southeast Colorado and brought us a couple feet of snow. That's not going to happen. What will happen overnight, the blizzard warning will gradually shrink by early morning, but everything will be locked down over northeast Colorado. Low temperatures, cold tonight. That's going to keep the roads icy and snow covered in the teens and singles in the mountains. 20s expected on the plains. Along the Front Range will drop to the low 20s by early morning with teens off to the west. Start tomorrow, very slick and slow I-25 corridor, but passable. Snow covered, worth the trip in the mountains for the fresh powder, but roads still closed out on the far eastern plains. That's going to take till later tomorrow to really clean things up. We'll still have a windy day on Thursday. 20 to 40 miles per hour out of the northwest. Snow-covered roads remain in the mountains, but then finally by late in the day conditions start to improve a little bit, and that improvement is going to linger, it looks like, for the next couple of days. Just in the 30s tomorrow, 40s by Friday, 50s by the weekend. Let's go over to Jason for the latest on traffic.
Snow, what snow? Up in Boulder. Mike, we talked about this, didn't we? That we're not going to see some areas that typically see a lot of snow, like Boulder, get hit really hard. And you can see that right now, or you can see actually lanes here. It doesn't look like there's that much snow now in Boulder. Let me go move the camera, not from here, and then we can see the conditions down at Arapahoe Road at I-25. Not only is Arapahoe Road completely snow covered, much more snow. Look at that flag getting quite the workout, still with the very strong winds that are blowing that snow around. So it's still very tough, but it's not going to be everybody that's going, hey, it's not that bad in Lakewood. Well, it is bad in a lot of other areas, and it's extremely bad in eastern Arapahoe County, Elbert County, and down in Douglas County. Take a look on the map. Down that way, we still have some folks that are being rescued down on 86, Elizabeth, Kiowa, Franktown. Also, Highway 83 remains closed down south of that area because I-25 remains closed down all the way down here, where we do have some folks that are stranded, and they are still stranded, and the Douglas County folks are trying to still get these people out of their cars. Now, you can see from the camera down there, this is I-25 in Larkspur, and there is some traffic moving. This is actually just one side, the northbound side of I-25, and you see emergency crews using what would be the left lane of the northbound side to actually go south to help rescue some of these folks and get them out of there. And that process will continue. Hopefully, we can get a lot of these people out of those abandoned areas down there in southern Douglas County.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jason. So the hurricane force winds and the whiteout conditions have forced DIA to ground all its flights.
Denver 7's Jackie Crea is live at Denver International. Okay. Jackie, all 6 runways are closed.
Yeah, closed. The airfield is shut down, but the airport is open and actually pretty busy because as roads have continued to close down and all these flights, if you want to look, canceled. We've been reporting more than 1,300. The airport only operates 1,600 today, so that's most of them. People are having a hard time even figuring out how to get out of the airport. The A line last we checked was not operating. There was a frozen switch, so even taking the A line to downtown, hoping to get to a hotel there, right now not possible. Don't know how long that will last. And then Pena Boulevard, and then crashes on the roads kind of before the airport. We know after the airport, that's not even a chance. So we've got people kind of waiting everywhere. We're a little bit quiet. We're in the baggage claim area, so quiet because we don't have any operating flights. People are just kind of getting cozy over here. I'm going to ask them what their story is. Where are you trying to get to?
I'm trying to get to North Carolina.
Okay. What was your experience this morning? Like, how long have you been here, and how long have you been waiting?
So I got a shuttle from Breckenridge at about 6 o'clock this morning. I got here at about 8, a little afterwards, and I've been here ever since, trying to catch a flight.
And what airline, and what are you trying to do next?
I was originally on Frontier, then I was rebooked to Delta, and now I'm on Southwest leaving tomorrow morning.
And what's in North Carolina?
I'm in grad school at Chapel Hill.
Okay. So do you think you're going to stay in the airport, or are you trying to look for a hotel?
I have friends in the area that I'm trying to get to stay with, but no biters yet. We'll see if that plans out or not.
What's your name?
I'm Jarrett.
Jarrett, thank you so much for talking to us. I'm sure we'll be hanging out with you. We don't know how we're going to get out of the airport. And you said you were trying to get out of here, but Uber... What's the Uber situation?
Well, I don't know. It was a fluke. I thought I had a hit, but I don't. So got here at 6 o'clock this morning, drove it in the rain. It was pouring rain, and of course it turned to snow. And we were on the tarmac, I was actually on the plane. Thought we were going to get out of here. We're going to make it out. And we were actually on the tarmac, and there were some mechanical difficulties. They fixed it, and then about that time, it really started snowing hard. It was at freezing temperatures. It was 10 o'clock at that point, 32 degrees, and it was too windy, 50 miles per hour winds too. So the salt trucks couldn't do anything with the plane. So we turned around and delays, and now canceled. So I'm going back tomorrow, and I'll probably be staying in an airport tonight. So
what's your name?
Christy.
Christine, you're trying to go where?
Atlanta, which is home. Yeah.
Okay, you're trying to get home. What were you doing here?
Working.
So you're
doing education programs for nurses and physicians at some of the local hospitals and things here. Yeah.
So you might be getting cozy here for tonight.
I think I am.
What do you think about all of this? I mean, people that have been flying in have been asking us, is Colorado always like this, or is Denver area always like this? It's not always like this, but what are your thoughts?
It is what it is, Yeah, I'm safe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Safe in here. That's important. Thank you so much. That's kind of the issue is, is it worth kind of venturing out? I mean, all of my colleagues we've seen all day. I kind of lucked out here being inside. Sarah and I did, my photographer. Trying to figure out, is it worth going outside and trying to get to a hotel? Is there room at the hotels? Because a lot of them are fully booked. So we'll kind of check back in with you. We're keeping an eye on the A-line situation and traffic around the area, Pena Boulevard. So stay with us, and we'll kind of let you know how people are planning to get around. Send it back to you guys.
All right, we're glad you're safe inside DIA. At least it's warm and there's food.
Yeah, so and if one of Jarrett's friends listening, would you please go help that guy out? Give him a place to stay.
We feel their pain
tonight. Yes. So on top of the nasty blizzard conditions, most of the high country still under an avalanche warning.
That's right. We will show you the areas where slides are very likely and the warning from avalanche experts. Welcome back to Denver 7 and take a look at this picture. Now look at I-25. Traffic is moving just fine. This is not indicative of the conditions all across the state right now, where you can see that we are still in the throes of a blizzard. It doesn't appear that way right now here in downtown Denver, but conditions are still pretty rough out there right now.
We do have some breaking news. Denver 7's Jessica Porter joins us from the newsroom with that. Jess?
Well, yeah, the snow has been slowing down in a couple of areas, but it's still not safe to get out on the roads. I wanted to start out and give you an update with this photo that's from Broomfield Police. I hope you have that photo. This SUV, it crashed into a canal near Highway 36. That photo was taken about an hour ago. It doesn't look like we have it right now, but authorities there are warning about the roads being still very slick, and it's only going to get worse. So definitely, even though the snow is slowing down, don't want to get out on the roads just yet. I wanted to also give an update on emergency shelters. The emergency shelter in Douglas County, the one at Kirk Hall at the fairgrounds, is at full capacity. So they're asking people to head to the Douglas County Event Center. And the other shelter in Douglas County at New Covenant Church at Larkspur is open. There's about 61 people taking refuge there. And there's an emergency shelter that's been opened up off of E470. That's at 22470 East 6th Street or 6th Parkway. And they have food, they have water, they have sleeping bags. So there are plenty of resources for people to go there if they are stuck in their vehicles. We'll continue to update you on this storm. Denver 7, we'll be right back.
Another live look over downtown Denver right now. It's the, I suppose, the calm after the storm, at least here in the Denver metro, but conditions are still rough out there, so do be aware if you're trying to head anywhere tonight.
And avalanche danger is still very high across the state, and the winter storm certainly isn't helping today. The San Miguel Sheriff's Office closed roads west of Grand Junction today after an avalanche there brought down a lot of snow and debris. But you take a look at the map. This is the Colorado Avalanche Information Center. Nearly every mountain region in the state is under an avalanche warning until tomorrow morning. All the red areas there, those all mean avalanche danger is high. That also means natural slides are likely, and avalanches triggered by humans are very likely. So with this avalanche risk, with this winter storm today, it really is just not safe to be out in any of those areas in the high country.
Let's talk some weather now. Out on the eastern plains, it's not too safe either. This is a live shot from our Viero camera in Lyman, where they've had gusts up to 70 miles an hour. I want you to look right here at these electrical lines. You see how those wires are moving like that? That's what we call a galloping conductor, and they short out as they get closer together. That's where we're seeing a lot of the power outage, not only out there, but across much of the Front Range. This is what it looks like from our Viero camera in Akron. Zero visibility. The winds are just screaming down from the northwest now. 69 mile per hour gusts at Akron, 74 at Lyman, in the 40s over much of the central and eastern part of the Denver metro area. The snow totals 10 to 18 inches, mostly to the west. It's been anywhere from about 5 to 8 over the metro. Some of it came down as rain earlier this morning. A lot of warnings still in effect. The blizzard warnings continue over all of northeast Colorado. High wind warnings southeast. Avalanche and winter storm warnings in the mountains. The worst of it shifting now to the east of Denver, gradually improving from west to east. But on the northeast plains tonight, the blizzard warning will remain very much in place. Roads closed, power outages, and this is likely through the afternoon and overnight tonight. We'll start to see conditions slowly improving from west to east off of the foothills across the metro area as the heaviest bands of snow with this fast-moving storm, which is now racing off to the northeast. It's now about just a little bit east of Goodland, Kansas, and it's going to take off at about 35, 40 miles an hour into Nebraska tonight. That's going to mean this will rapidly come to an end along the I-25 corridor, but it will still linger across the eastern plains. The heaviest snow bands are now out toward Fort Morgan, extending down toward the Lyman area. Lighter snow is currently in Denver, and thunder snow falling currently out in Burlington. This is what it looks like in Burlington at the moment. Some heavy snow falling, thunder and lightning in the area. In Sterling, roads are sloppy and slushy and will remain icy. Our forecast, the blizzard warning will come to an end this evening in Denver, but continue all night long on the northeast plains with a low of 22. And then for tomorrow, after a slick and slow drive early, it starts to get a little better, 32. The extended forecast, 40s by Friday, 50s by the weekend. Let's go over to Jason Luber.
Mike, look at this picture here at the Purina plant layer off of I-70. It looks like the snow at least has all but stopped. And it is just wet roads right now. And so there's really nothing even to plow, which is really stunning. And then if you take a look at the camera that's farther south of down into the Denver Tech Center, take a look at that camera as we switch the camera to the screenwriter, if you would. This is at I-25, or Arapahoe Road. I-25 would be back there. And we have still caked on snow on Arapahoe Road. You see the flag getting still quite the workout as it's blowing all over the place. And as I move the cameras over here at C470 at Colorado Boulevard, you're starting to see some of the snow break up. And that's really welcome news. However, in farther southern Douglas County, we still have a lot of folks that are stranded. I just saw a moment ago some of the folks that are coming up on the northbound side of I-25 as they're starting to release some of those folks that were trapped in their cars behind crashes because of these conditions. I still think we'll be able to get I-25 between Castle Rock and the Denver Tech Center open before we get this section open. And I just got some word from the Pikes Peak Regional Emergency Office down there, and they say that nearly 1,100 drivers are still stranded in the Pikes Peak region. 1,100 drivers. That would be down into the southern parts of Douglas County and then down into El Paso County. And so that's the kind of stuff we're dealing with, especially for us down there. So, and Shannon, it's not a good situation, unfortunately, but it is starting to get better in some spots.
Your mouth to God's ears. All right, thanks for that.
Definitely seeing signs of improvement. Right now, blowing snow and treacherous conditions, though, up north have shut down I-25. We're talking just south of the Wyoming state line.
Denver 7 photojournalist Major King is live in Weld County, where a shelter has been set up there, as well as many other places to keep people safe and warm. Major?
Hey, thanks, Shannon. Yeah, actually, I'm in Wellington, which I think is just barely Larimer, but it's right near the Weld line. I'm at the gas station, the Burger King, and the Shell station, which has been closed since 11 this morning. These truckers have been hunkered down since I-25 was closed this morning. The weather here actually seems to be a little bit better. Winds are 30, 31 miles an hour. Temperatures holding at about 28 degrees. But power has been such a huge issue today. That's been affecting the traffic lights. I shot some video of these traffic lights at the Johnstown exit, Highway 60, Colorado 60, and I-25 this morning. And I want to show you the conditions of my truck. Kind of try to give you a semblance of what whiteout looks like. I shot this cell phone video of my truck on the side of US 34 near County Road 17, and it's just, check out that ice that's caked on the front end of the truck, and it's just extremely treacherous conditions out there. So treacherous that we had multi-vehicle crashes along I-25 near the Carr exit up towards the Wyoming line. Those vehicles are actually still there. I hooked up with Trooper Paul Durkis of the Fort Collins Troop, who tweeted out this video earlier today regarding that crash.
On scene at I-25 near milepost 291, we have a multi-vehicle crash blocking southbound I-25.
It's as you can tell, it's just extremely still very treacherous out there, even though conditions seem to be improving slightly. Lastly, guys, if you got one of these for tonight, those are Colorado Eagles tickets. A little bit of breaking news to tell you about. The game is on tonight. They are going to play this game, but they are discouraging fans from coming to the game, and they hope to give out a voucher to a future game. They haven't figured that out yet, but they really don't want fans to come to the game. They have to get this game played because there's not that many dates left that they can make it up. They play Ontario tonight at 7 at the BEC, but they are discouraging fans from going. So a little bit of news for you there on the Colorado Eagles. So reporting live in Wellington. We'll send it back to you.
We'll watch for their scores online. Thanks, Major. Colorado is making sure no one without power or a warm place to stay is left out in the cold. The state has opened several emergency shelters, and you can see that on this map here. And the Red Cross is opening shelters in Douglas, Elbert, El Paso, Larimer counties, another in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And you can find a full list of all the shelters and warming locations on our website, thedenverchannel.com. All you have to do is click on our live blog on the blizzard to find those resources.
Now, the I-25 corridor has been a mess all day, as you know. So CDOT and other emergency officials are just begging you to stay off the roads.
Definitely. We want to check in now with Tom Mustin. He's in the South Metro. So does it first look like people are listening to that warning, Tom?
I think they are, especially here, and that's a good thing, because actually this stretch of the highway, I-25, has been shut down, a 32-mile stretch from Monument all the way to Ridgegate Parkway because of icy conditions. And I'll tell you what, it is cold, it is miserable, and man, it is tough out here. Videographer James Doherty and I drove up here, and there were stretches where we couldn't see 5 feet in front of us, and you almost want to pull over because it was so bad. Luckily, we were the only people on the road at that point. Matter of fact, there's a lot more snow here than we thought, too. Our live truck got stuck. We had to dig ourselves out a few minutes ago because there was just, we were buried in snow as well. But right now, I woke up this morning thinking, Ann, what would it be like to be inside of a bomb cyclone? And now we know. It is awful. Now, if you look over to my left shoulder, you see a CSP officer there making sure no one gets on the highway now because it is treacherous. And again, that section of the road is closed. So not a lot of action here on the road right now, and there's a good reason why, because like I said, we just traveled here. It is treacherous. So to sum it up, it is cold, it is icy, the snow is still falling, and CDOT, when I called them a few minutes ago, said, our word of advice to you is stay off the roads, and that is words of wisdom for you. We're reporting live now in Castle Pines. Tom Mustin, Denver 7.
So glad people are listening. Thank you, Tom.
No kidding. Thanks, Tom. And the snow that's coming down is very heavy. And then we combine it with those unbelievably strong winds today. Well, you have a lot of downed trees. Take a look at this. We're seeing them across Denver, across Aurora. West Metro had to respond to a chimney that blew right off somebody's house in Wheat Ridge.
Incredible. Wow. And we want to give you another check of our XL outage map, because at its peak, we were talking more than 200,000 customers who were without power. Well, we do know that XL has been working around the clock out in these blizzard-like conditions. Crews have been working, getting power restored so far for about 60,000 customers. However, there are still more than 100,000 customers without power right now. So And as you know, it has just been a busy day for closures.
That's right. So we're tracking them all. School closures, businesses, government closures. And we have them all for you on our website, thedenverchannel.com. And you can find a link to that page on our homepage. So click on the closures link. It's on the homepage. It's on the upper right-hand corner, and you'll find an up-to-the-minute list of closures. We'll stay on top of that. Also, it'd be a good idea to download our Denver 7 app, turn on the push notifications, and we'll send you alerts when we find out about road closures or any other important situations you need to know about today. There's one more check of the weather with meteorologist Mike Nelson.
And if you want to see why we're having power outages, you just have to look at the way these power lines are being whipped around by the strong winds. This is the scene out in Lyman right now. The severe weather will continue tonight across northeast Colorado with the blizzard warnings up across the northeast corner of the state. High wind warning southeast. The avalanche and winter storm warnings continue in the mountains. The worst of this is now starting to shift off to the northeast now gradually and through tonight into early tomorrow, maybe through midday tomorrow on the far northeast plains. Roads closed, power outages, and some blizzard conditions expected. But for Denver, a little bit of good news. Conditions are starting to improve now from west to east. On radar, we're seeing lighter snows off to the western suburbs as this powerful storm continues to exit the region, head off to the northeast. That's the difference between this storm and, say, March of 2003 or October of 1997, when the low just stayed right there for about 12 hours before moving on. This is moving out of here at about 35 to 40 miles per hour toward the northeast. So in Denver and Boulder, that's why we're seeing much lighter snows in the area now compared to what we had a few hours ago. The darker bands, that indicates the heavier snow. That's done with us now. It's heading off to the east of us pretty quickly. Neighbors out on the eastern plains, different story. Thunder and lightning and snow falling currently out on the Kansas border, and the heavier snows will start moving into places like Akron, heading up towards Sterling, and eventually toward Ray and Julesburg. So this is what it currently looks like in Burlington, where they've had some thunder with the snow. Here's how it looks in Sterling. It'll get worse there before it gets better. But for Denver tonight, the snows will be ending. 22 for a low temperature, and then tomorrow, although we'll have a slow drive in the morning, it'll be a windy day with much better conditions later on, a high of 32, 40s on the way by Friday.
Breaking news first at 5. A corporal with the Colorado State Patrol has been killed after he was hit by a vehicle while investigating a crash in Weld County.
52-year-old Corporal Daniel Groves was transported to Platte Valley Medical Center, but he died shortly after arrival there. The patrol says high speed and poor driving conditions are being investigated as possible factors.
Corporal Groves has been with the patrol since 2007 and is survived by his partner of 2 years. And charges against the driver who hit Corporal Groves have not yet been filed. And we are going to continue to follow this heartbreaking story. Corporal Groves was making sure the drivers were safe in very dangerous